Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1376 of the War News stream. And also, it is the Sunday night fundraiser stream yet again, another night to raise funds for those in Ukraine. And also, we have a very big breaking news. Ukraine has launched a global war on the Russian Shadow Fleet as of today. We've also seen that Russia is evacuating citizens from Venezuela as we speak. And also, Iran is preparing to suppress major imminent riots in their country. And there is a lot of big news today, and it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, folks, we are going to be covering the past 24 hours of news from around the world. And today is once again an incredibly significant day on none other than a Sunday night fundraiser for Nova Ukraine, an amazing nonprofit that has been helping out around the world. Significant news has been evolving, or more so developing, around the open seas of the world, as the state of Ukraine, at least from what we understand today, is now declaring an open war against the entirety of any vessels involved in what is called the Russian Shadow Fleet that is containing and carrying goods, cargo, and specifically that of crude oil for the Russian Federation to violate sanctions. 5,500 kilometers away from the state of Ukraine today, a vessel carrying what is believed to be Russian oil has been hit and appears to be sinking off the coast of Senegal, which is the longest range strike that we have ever seen if it was conducted by some form of a drone in the history of modern warfare. Additionally, we have also been able to hear of other major breaking news coming out of the Islamic Republic of Iran, as the Islamic Republic of Iran is now dealing with an active rebellion, and the Iranian government is now raising up what is basically a militia force within the country to try and put down the rebels and keep the internal government secure. It is clearly showing us that the internal situation is still falling apart, slowly yet surely, within the Islamic Republic of Iran. But while the Islamic Republic of Iran is dealing with all that odd anomaly and phenomena within their own border, directly across the Gulf of Oman from Iran, in Muscat, Oman, Alexander Lukashenko has just gone missing. It's been 3 days now since he arrived in Muscat in Oman, and there has been absolutely no public statements by the government of Oman or the Belarusian government as to where in the world Lukashenko has gone and what he's doing. So at the moment, from what we understand, Lukashenko is actually missing at the moment from the global stage, and we have no clue where in the world the guy even is at the moment. The last time he was seen, he was in Oman, but since then, no words come out. Meanwhile, inside of the state of Israel, the Israelis are continuing their actions against Hezbollah and Hamas as an airstrike was conducted today near the city of Rafah within the Gaza Strip, where an Israeli F-15I engaged and destroyed several Hamas combatants on the ground with a laser-guided bomb. Additionally, we have also been able to hear of major news and developments within the People's Republic of China, as we are now hearing that Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party are going to be tightening censorship on the public and stopping them from saying not-so-nice things about the Chinese government or generally their takes on what should be done around the world in terms of foreign policy or even inside of the country and internal domestic developments. Still, the Russian Federation doesn't really appear to be that much better off, and they might want to try and start implementing that form of censorship, as Russia has now, by presidential decree, authorized their military spending budget for the 2026 fiscal year, which is going to be a whopping $166 billion at minimum. This is the largest military spending that the Russian Federation since 1991 has ever conducted within a single year. As a matter of fact, this is 3 times larger in amount than the largest amount that Russia was spending on their military annually before the war in Ukraine began. Russia has also seen that they've come under another Ukrainian drone attack again tonight, and also some archival footage has started to emerge out of the ether, if we want to call it that, on the attack from November 14th at Novorossiysk, and also the attacks on the Russian shadow tankers of Kairos and Virat near to the area of the coast of Turkey. Additionally, we've also seen that NATO is now conducting military exercises within Romania today in a hypothetical scenario where the U.S. is not involved, with the higher command being led by the United Kingdom, France, and Germany within the military exercise. Meanwhile, in Belgium, additional news emerged that they are now doing cost analysis on whether or not, if the United States completely pulls support for Ukraine, how much would it cost for them to build up the armed forces of Europe to a subsequent size that would be a deterrent alone against Russia if they end up succeeding in Ukraine due to the United States forcing an end to the war, versus how much it would cost for them to support Ukraine and see the war to an inevitable victory against the Russians. Crazily enough, it actually costs less to keep the war going than it would to try and stop it right now. The Russian government is also in a bit of its own quagmire additionally as well, as Witkoff will be arriving to Moscow, and we highly expect that Witkoff is going to have the peace proposal and himself shot down in the usual circular kind of talk that the Russians do every single time a possible peace deal comes around. This is also off the heels of the meeting that the Ukrainian delegation and the United States had today within Miami, Florida, which did conclude with the United States, or at least the Secretary of State, saying that there was some sort of a beneficial outcome, although once again the exact details have not been made clear to the public at the moment. Inside of Washington, D.C., a large amount of additional news came out today, with the President of the United States even distancing himself from the double tap that was conducted against the narco boat down within the area of the Eastern Caribbean. We've also heard multiple other statements from the the U.S. government as well about multiple global situations, including the fact that Nicolas Maduro actually did get on a phone call with the President of the United States last night. The President has now clarified that when he said that they were shutting down their airspace and they were going to be bombing Venezuela soon, that didn't mean that they were shutting down the airspace and bombing Venezuela anytime soon. It was just said for funsies. Nevertheless, the Venezuelan government is pulling out their greatest defender, Maduro's brother, who has stated that he will pull Taekwondo on the Marines if they land on shore. Meanwhile, a NOTAM has been issued within southern Venezuela for military aviation purposes as well. Additionally, we have also seen that the Ukrainian armed forces have held their front lines today and have inflicted significant casualties on the Russian Federation. And that's just all the big stories of the day, by the way. That's not all the little ones. So it took me that long just to get through all of the major headliners that we have for tonight for the show. And I think you can tell that we're in for a treat. Also, by the way, if you thought I was kidding about Nicolas Maduro's brother pulling Taekwondo on the Marines, I'm not kidding. That's literally something he did and said on film today. So we are...
honestly, it might be their best weapon, honestly, at this point. Based on the old nasty weapons that Venezuela has, that guy might be their best chance of survival at this point.
Man, I mean, I mean, maybe he's like John Wick or something. I don't know. We'll get to it later. We'll let y'all decide if we can show the video on air. If we can find a video that is showable on air of that, we'll try and show it. But with that, folks, it is time for us to get on into all of those big stories of the day. And once again, folks, the fundraiser is open for Nova Ukraine, which has a $2.5 thousand goal, and we've already hit $840 raised nearly. Actually, I think it's $850 now. I'm not exactly sure, but still, an absolutely incredible fundraiser to support as it continues to help out the Ukrainian people who are currently facing a major war, the largest one seen in Europe since the Second World War. So with that, folks, it is time for us to get on into the largest story of the night, which is something that honestly is really hard to even start wrapping our minds around or to even start explaining. Off of the coast of Senegal today, which is a smaller country on the west coast of Africa, generally known for tourism and other sorts of activities, there was an action that occurred today off of their coast within international waters that is absolutely shocking. A vessel called I believe it's the Mersin, that is an alleged Russian shadow tanker, was taking on water and sinking in international waters near to the coast of Senegal. Now, this vessel has been stated by many countries to be involved in the Russian Shadow Fleet, which the Shadow Fleet is a myriad of oil tankers that fly the flags of different nations, like, for example, Liberia, Panama, Senegal, so on and so forth. Any Central American or Central African country usually are the flags that these ships fly under. But these ships transport Russian oil around the world and skirt around the sanctions, allowing for the Russian Federation to make money. Allegedly, according to a lot of the claims made by a great deal of European countries and others, the Mersin appears to be one of those vessels that is involved in shadow tanker operations, at least according to their claims at the moment. This ship is sinking at the moment off the coast of Senegal and appears to be taking on water at the stern and is slowly sinking below the waves, or at least the calm sea state that existed within that area. Additional video did emerge showing the ship with a visible list to stern, once again showing that it has taken on a large amount of water and is sinking.
gars yi nee nañ Sénégal lii mooy problème dañuy gis nit nekk ci danger ñoom ñu koy bind. Catastrophe. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
My thoughts indeed. Whoa, 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 manly.
As you can see, the ship is sinking in Senegal. It's going down.
Whoa, 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 man. Like,
Taat bi jël na. Taat bi jël na, c'est fini. Gaal bi laal na ndox ba pare. C'est fini. Gaal bi day dem. Tanker bi day dem. Non, gaal gi day.
Also, is the vessel, is it like beached or something, or is it close to shore, or is it simply in the process of sinking?
Yeah, from what we understand, it's well off the coast. You can see the lights of some city off in the distance, but this is at least 20 miles offshore. This is technically within international waters, and the vessel is sinking out here. You can actually see right here, this is probably the best clip we have, that there is about a 5 or 10 degree list to stern on this ship from the water that it's taken on currently. So it is taking on a mass amount of water. Right now, the entirety of the engine and machinery spaces, which actually run the ship and keep it going at sea, are most likely submerged inside of the ship in a pretty deep layer of salt water at the moment, meaning that also that engine bay is pretty much entirely out of operation as salt water corrodes machinery spaces quite quickly. This means that this ship is largely going under at the moment. Now, I do want to make it quite clear that this ship is alleged to be a shadow tanker by several countries that had put shadow tankers on a list. And according to those lists, allegedly, the Mersin is one of those vessels. Now, what is quite interesting about this is that the Russians claim that the shadow fleet is non-existent, and that the Russian government and the Russian people and no Russian businesses have any connection whatsoever to any of these vessels. But, interestingly enough, the Russians did make a comment on this today and stated that the Ukrainians had attacked the ship, and that is the reason why it was sinking. Apparently, from what they claim, it was attacked with some form of an explosive, which punctured the hull without a fire starting, and then the ship started to take on water and sink, like we're seeing in this clip right here. So it appears that at the moment, according to the Russian claim, which we're to take it at face value, this is the longest range attack by a drone that has ever been conducted in history, and not only that, it is being conducted against an alleged shadow tanker. 1 day after, well actually 2 days after, The Kairos and the Virat were attacked in the Black Sea by the Ukrainian Navy there. So it is quite interesting. And I've got to say that it is fairly interesting sort of an incident to see, especially considering that the armed forces of Ukraine did just come off of the heels of a successful attack against 2 alleged shadow tankers within the area of the Black Sea just off of the coast of Turkey, near to the Strait, actually the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles. We also saw an additional clip, by the way, just to show you all this, of a sailor on board the Kairos actually filming their experience on board, along with the evacuation to the main deck, along with the fire that was existing near to the superstructure when the ship had just been hit by the Ukrainian drones. At least the first Ukrainian drones, not the naval drones that we saw later. These are apparently the aerial-based drones that hit the ship, and this footage comes right after that first hit.
1, 2, 3.
You see the fire here.
Oh, wow.
The crew members standing on deck.
Oh, that is crazy. Also, can you turn it down a little bit? That is blaringly loud. Like, it's almost blowing my speakers out. But that is crazy. You can actually just see the trail of fire going on back there. You're right. It must have actually busted the fuel tank or something at the back of the vessel, if that's where it's located, because it looks like it's just leaking it all out. And according to what we had heard, this vessel was on its way to pick up Russian oil, at least allegedly. So it wasn't carrying anything. So it must have been the vessel's own fuel.
Yeah, it seems like the aerial drones that hit it first, considering that they were still floating afterwards and none of the punctures were on the waterline from the explosions, apparently hit a fuel tank in the stern of the ship that was filled most likely with bunker sea oil, which is usually the most common form of fuel on these larger vessels. And the bunker sea oil ignited from the initial explosion and then spilled out onto the sea below, and then just started to spread out and create this literal film of fire that exists behind the ship as it started to slow down in speed, considering that the ship's propulsion was turned off because they were preparing to possibly abandon ship. We still saw that while the ship was slowing down, it was literally leaving a trail of fire behind it from the bunker sea oil that was pouring out of the open puncture on the side of the hull. This guy's like, hey, yo, we out here in the Black Sea. Our ship got hit. He's like, this ain't good, fam. Chat, we're cooking, literally.
I appreciate the vlog, though. I mean, this is helpful to see.
It really is. You know what's crazy?
You know, they were shocked because they probably weren't expecting to get hit like this far away from Ukraine like this. They were probably not expecting, though. So you can tell by the guy's face there. He looks like he's in shock a little bit that this is actually happening.
Yeah, and we can see that they've all abandoned the superstructure or the sail of the vessel at the stern, and they've now all migrated to the bow of the ship in a large group. The entire crew is here, so nobody is left in the ship inside of it. The entire crew is up here with everyone else at the bow of the ship now, watching the stern burn uncontrollably. Crew's just watching the blaze from the distance.
No smoking. Safety first.
Safety first. I've been saying that for 20 years. And if I say...
Raise the power. Do it.
Man, they were on the ship
look,
practically all night.
Yeah, really? I thought they got evacuated pretty quick based on the reports, but apparently they were hanging out for a long, long time.
According to the Turkish Maritime Authority, they were evacuated off the ship fairly quickly. This actually shows they were there for pretty much at least several hours, because when the clips first started, it appeared to be well in the middle of the day here. And then here, it is clearly dusk, nearly, and turning into night. Well... it appears that we did get some additional clips from the Kairos, at least, showing the aftermath of the Ukrainian strike on the ship, at least the first strikes that were conducted, and it is giving us a general idea at the moment, along with the ship sinking off the coast of Senegal today, that it is highly likely at the moment that the Ukrainians are starting a global war against Russian shadow tankers. I do want to make this a little bit clear, though, at the moment, that some people are actually saying that the Mersin off the coast of Senegal actually was not involved in the Ukrainian attack. Others are saying that the ship simply is dilapidated and that it's sinking for that reason. crazily enough, that's actually a very viable theory. We have seen several Russian ships in the past, especially those in the Black Sea, literally rip asunder without any external developments happening, just because they're poorly maintained, and then spill out their contents into the Black Sea. Some of y'all will actually remember, way back in the day, that around 4 of these smaller sea-going tankers actually ripped themselves apart all within a 4-day period around the area of the Kerch Strait in somewhat rougher seas. Generally, the rough seas were what ripped them apart, but the structural integrity had been so greatly weakened due to poor management and repairs of the vessel that the rougher sea state was all it was needed that was necessary to rip the ships apart. This one, however, is not that same class of ship. This is an ocean-going tanker. And while some people have claimed that the Russian Federation is running dilapidated ships, we've never seen an ocean-going tanker of this size ever start sinking. That's just never happened. The largest one we've ever seen that started to sink was about 450 feet long. This vessel is about 750 feet long. It is a totally different class by displacement and tonnage. This has never happened before. So the fact that the Russians are claiming that this was attacked by Ukrainian drones, it's not entirely out of the question, especially if the explosions were further down towards the waterline. It is possible that we may not be able to see the actual puncture or explosion marks because it is so far down in the water by the point that this picture and video was made of the sinking of the Mersin. So at the moment, it seems fairly likely that the Ukrainians may have actually conducted this attack and caused damage to the shadow tanker, especially considering that no matter the range or the distance, conducting attacks against an alleged shadow tanker within any area of the world's international waters has the very same sort of an outcome as far as diplomatic developments are concerned. It is a shadow tank, well, it's more so an oil tanker within international waters flagged by some country somewhere in the world, and the Ukrainians are blowing them up. So it doesn't really matter if that happens in the Black Sea, the North Atlantic, the Mediterranean, or anywhere else in the world for that matter. It largely is the same occurrence no matter the distance and no matter the size of vessel. But a lot of people are talking about this at the moment, and whether or not the Ukrainians conducted the attack, and if they did, how in the world did they do it, considering the range that this was from Ukraine? And Matthew, what are people thinking about that, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right, so that oil tanker that you saw sinking off the coast of Senegal, which is all the way down in Africa, which is crazy. It's 5,500 kilometers away from Ukraine, which is extremely long distance. Sources are saying that Ukraine attacked the tanker carrying Russian oil around Senegal. So what are your thoughts about that? 49% said Ukraine likely launched drones from nearby and struck it, while 23% said Ukraine has a very advanced long-range drones that can reach all the way down into Africa, which is kind of hard to believe, and 13% said Ukraine could not have done this under the circumstances. So I do want to emphasize that the Russians are claiming that the Ukrainians attacked it. It's coming directly from Russia, that claim right there. So we got to take that for what we will, because the Russians do lie quite a bit. I will say there is an ongoing, I guess you could call it a war against the Black Sea Fleet, the oil tankers that is, by Ukraine. We've seen 2 of them attacked over the last few days, but this one in Senegal, I'll be honest with you, I'm having a very hard time believing that this was an attack by Ukraine, because Ukraine simply does not have drones that can go 5,500 kilometers away. They don't have that. Unless they have something like a Wunderwaffe weapon or something that they've been keeping secret, then they have no aerial drones that can go that far. So the only way they could launch this attack was if they launched it locally from Senegal, like let's say from the coast. They could have done it that way, or they might have had maybe agents that maybe swam over to the vessel and placed charges on it or something like that. That's also another possibility as well. But I'll say this. I honestly am very skeptical about this. I'm beginning to wonder if it's maybe just bad maintenance or something that led to it, or some type of unintentional accident. So I'm kind of with the 14%. I don't think Ukraine could have done it, and I don't think Ukraine sent agents to Senegal to go take out the Russian oil tanker. So that's my hunch right now, but we're waiting to hear more information. But Enforcer, what do you think?
I would have to be with a 48%. I actually would have to say that the Ukrainians launched it from nearby, as we have seen in prior instances that Ukrainian special forces have been involved in conflicts against the Russian Federation in Sudan, Mali, and Mauritania. Mauritania being incredibly close, at least in terms of the distance, to the Mersin, which is going down by the stern as of today. So I would say that it is quite likely, just due to the proximity of Ukrainian special forces in the area, that they may have been able to try and manage or conduct some form of an attack against the vessel, considering that it was not that far away. If we were to say that the attack was not launched from Senegal, but from the more northerly country of Mauritania, we actually would see that that attack at the closest could have been conducted from about 200 miles away, which is well within reason for really any Ukrainian Special Forces unit that was able to either get, one, a Magura to Mauritania in some form, or even Liudi long-range drones, which would be a lot easier to get into a place like more so Saharan Africa, considering there are practically no customs or inspections within these areas, and we've always seen that that is the case, as Ukrainian Special Forces, armed and fully equipped, have been fighting Russian Special Forces, especially the Wagner several years ago, within Mali and Mauritania, sometimes with decisive results coming out as a factor in that equation. So with that in mind, I would have to say it's not out of the possibility. It's not like Ukraine is sending people out of their way into this area. We already generally know, at least on the very lowest levels of information that we have, that there are some Ukrainian Special Forces that have been present in this area in the past and have been heavily equipped for ground operations. So they may have been equipped now, or may have been given equipment to forces that were already within the area to try and conduct an attack on this Russian shadow tanker, or alleged shadow tanker.
Just imagine the implications of this. If it's proven that Ukraine actually did carry this out, and they either send agents to do this in Senegal, or they launched drones nearby in Senegal to hit this vessel, then that means Ukraine has the ability, at least partially, to basically attack Russian vessels globally, pretty much wherever the Ukrainian agents are at, which is kind of crazy. And once again, I'm not sure how Russia's going to defend against that, because Russia can plausibly defend their vessels in the Black Sea, because they do have a reach to the Black Sea, but they can't defend their vessels all the way around the continent of Africa. That's going to be extremely hard for Russia to defend against. So that would be a major implication, something that Russia really couldn't respond to if that was the case.
You know, it's actually something of a significant risk when you think about it, because with the Ukrainian Special Forces having been known to be present in Sudan, Mali, and Mauritania, which are the three countries that we know of definitively that Ukrainian Special Operations Forces have been in, they are at the crossroads for every single Russian shadow tanker that's trying to get to India or China. The only way that Russian shadow tankers can try to get past this area is during the summer months and try and make it from, say, Ust-Luga through the Baltic, North Sea, Norwegian Sea, and then through Barents, Kara, Laptev, and East Siberian seas, and then circle all the way around to the Pacific, which is generally a logistically inefficient supply line, and one that they probably wouldn't prefer. So if the Russians go with their normal sort of a supply route, which is to load their ships up with oil and then ship them out into the Atlantic, and then around Africa, and then on towards China, or through the Mediterranean and then through the Suez Canal, they are going to be passing by a country that has Ukrainian Special Operations Forces operational within them. That also means that if the Ukrainian Special Forces did manage to conduct this attack today and did pull it off successfully, every single Russian ship passing by these areas, especially near to the Suez, are going to be within incredibly short distance of a possible Ukrainian attack hitting the ship and knocking it out completely, which is going to completely change the Russians' abilities to ship oil at sea, and it's either going to make it a lot more expensive, as they're going to have to take even longer journeys in terms of mileage and time to be able to avoid these areas, or they're going to start seeing that they're losing a lot of ships in the meantime if this actually was the case today. I also want to put this out there, folks, that the reason why we are putting a lot of credence into the idea that the Russians may be correct and that a Ukrainian attack did happen on these ships is that the other day when the Kairos and the Virat was attacked inside of the Black Sea, a lot of people were saying that the Ukrainians couldn't have conducted that because they didn't have the range. It was clearly sea mines that someone had laid that had apparently been severed from their chains and were floating loose through the seas, and then it turned out that the Ukrainians did admit that they conducted the attacks, much to the surprise of several people out there in the world. And a decent amount of the OSIN people also were surprised by that development as well, as they were also trying to discredit it and say that it wasn't a Ukrainian attack, it was most likely some sort of an act of God or a random event. That's why we're saying that there's a high likelihood that this ship, also within very close proximity to the Ukrainians, starting attacks on shadow tankers, which has never been done before, mind you all, by the Ukrainians in the history of the whole war. This has a decent amount of credence that it may be another form of an attack by the Ukrainians, this time in a place where Russia would never imagine that they were capable of an attack of that form. But
yeah. Also, by the way, like you know how we like sort of coined the term turret toss, and everybody started using it after we started saying turret toss on the channel and stuff like that. I think we should start calling these attacks that Ukraine's conducting on these oil tankers. Start calling them rubber ducky attacks. That would be pretty. That would be pretty catchy right there. You'd remember that. So if we say, like, for example, another oil tanker in the Black Sea got hit, we could say it was hit with a rubber ducky attack from Ukraine. That'd be quite a cute thing.
Man, a rubber ducky attack. That would be quite an interesting one. We'll have to consider that. But why would we call it a rubber ducky though?
You know, it sounds all cheeky and stuff like that. Ukraine likes their cheeky jokes, by the way.
But possibly, perhaps. Oh, heavens. But with that, it is time for us to move on from the shadow tanker story and on to another part of the shadow tanker story that's more so on land at the port of Novorossiysk. Novorossiysk port has actually had a little bit of additional footage come out, which I wanted to show y'all here right now in this news segment, of the attack that was conducted at their port on the 14th of November, which has largely knocked out the entirety of the port. Just to show y'all this today on Marine Tracker, which is basically Flight Radar 24 for ships, there was not a single oil tanker within the port of Novorossiysk, or hardly any ships for that matter, as most of the port facilities have been completely destroyed and made inoperable. So for that reason, the port of Novorossiysk, as of right now, is still out of action due to the Ukrainian attacks that have been conducted on the port. This was the largest oil loading port within the Black Sea, and the only other one is the port of Tuapse, which has also been knocked out as well, meaning that oil shipping traffic within this area is exceptionally low. Additionally, we also got some new archival footage from the 14th of November showing the famous attack that happened that knocked the port out. This footage was filmed from an oil tanker that was at Novorossiysk port. So, without further ado, folks, here's this little bit of footage. We hear the sound of drones, air defense fire, the drone flying on over, tracers ripping right overhead of the sailor, the star shells flying, once again reminding us of that night on the 14th of November. We can see the front of the oil tanker.
Oh, there goes the crazy fire right there. Oh, there's the blue light out in the distance, too.
Oh, and an explosion of a drone out there in the middle of the harbor. We're going to turn it up a little bit more so that we can hear it a little bit better. The crew members are in absolute shock watching this display happen right overhead. The Ukrainians flying in their drones. At this point in the clip, the entirety of the Russian air defense battery at the mouth of the bay had already been destroyed at this point, from what we understand, and the rest of these oil tankers are sitting here pretty much defenseless and helplessly, watching the Russians fire machine guns blindly into the sky, hoping to hit something and never hitting anything.
Notice the cameraman is staying ducked away.
Oh yeah, the cameraman always survives. Dang! And the air defense fire is being laid on thick. The cameraman's getting a little lower. The rounds are literally whizzing right over this guy's head. They're cracking right overhead of these guys. We see the light of the star shells continue to illuminate the whole area. The Russians do not have night vision.
What is this light coming into view right here?
Those are the star shells. Those were the incendiary shells that the Russians fire off into the air that have a parachute attached to them, and they burn overhead, so it's basically like an artificial sun.
Interesting, interesting.
Y'all hear that? Oh, there we go again. There's all the air defense fire again. Oh, and there's the hit right on the plumbing of the oil loading facility.
This guy was smoking a cigarette. He had to take the edge off while this was happening.
Bro, we do have to point out that this man decided that in the midst of this all, it was the right time for a smoke break. And I'll be honest with y'all, folks, I heavily discourage smoking. But in this instance, I think that he might actually deserve a smoke break for a minute in the middle of all this stuff going on around him. So to actually show you what we're looking at right there, just put all this into picture, the sequence of events that happened that night. These guys are on a ship somewhere about right here. at this oil loading platform. Actually, it may have actually been this ship. It's a very similar sort of a deck layout to theirs. And they're sitting here on the superstructure up here. So when they look out into the harbor in the film, you'll see the bow of the vessel below them if they ever get a good look over the railing. But then behind them, what they were filming right there was this large area of pipework here that is actually a part of the pumping facility that pumps the crude oil onto these ships that are at the port, so that way they can load up with oil and get back to sea to go sell it. That's what they're seeing that just got hit, right there at that exact spot of the port. So, getting back into the clip. Oh, and here it goes again. Oh, and here goes the drone right overhead. Oh, and another hit. A second direct hit onto the oil loading facility. The ship's alarms are now going off from the force of the explosion.
Honestly, though, if I was on this ship right here, I would be scared that the drone was coming for me or something at that point.
I mean, honestly, I would have been terrified, really. The air defense fire is still going off, even after the actual oil loading port has pretty much been completely destroyed at this point.
Look, Captain, look! I'm the captain now.
And that's the end of that little clip, but another glimpse back into that fateful night on the 14th of November when the largest oil loading port in the Black Sea was knocked out by Ukrainian fire. And that was probably the closest first-person point of view that we could have ever gotten to the direct hits on the oil loading facility. Additionally, tonight, in honor of that, the Russians did launch another attack against the state of Ukraine. Now, this is something that's actually kind of funny. So right here, folks, is the oil loading port right here. You see that right there? All the plumbing, the pipes, the giant tanks, so on and so forth. Y'all see that, right? You see that, Matthew? You do?
Yeah.
So right next door to that, you just walk right over to the next door and open it. That is the Vostochny Rayon, which is where the remainder of the surviving portions of the Black Sea Fleet are based out of currently. So tonight, in the middle of the attack on Ukraine, the Black Sea Fleet did something that they haven't done before yet that I've ever seen documented on film. Whenever the Black Sea Fleet is a part of the an attack on Ukraine, they usually send their submarines and ships out to sea from this little port, out of this opening right here, and then into the Black Sea, usually just off of the coast, somewhere around right here, and then they start firing off their missiles at the state of Ukraine, giving their little token part of the attack that the Russians will conduct against Ukraine. So tonight they've decided, due to the risks of a possible Ukrainian attack, considering that they also don't have the air defense battery down here at the mouth of the bay to try and help to protect the fleet if it goes out to sea to try and conduct this attack, that they are going to give themselves the absolute maximum level of protection. And they conducted the missile attack on Ukraine tonight from inside of the port itself, moored at their piers. The ships just started firing off their missiles right from that spot, which is absolutely insane to watch. I'll show you all the clip that we got from Novorossiysk, showing the missiles literally being fired straight out of the Vostochny Rayon. No joke, this is absolutely insane. So here's the clip. There they go flying, bled. Look, there they fly. 8 missiles, bled.
Oddly enough, they did this during the last attack as well. They also did this last time because I remember seeing very similar footage to this one. It looks almost identical, actually. And they were launching them straight from the ports while they were moored there. So it seems to be becoming pretty common.
Interesting. Very interesting. Oh. Drum. Bam. Вот так-то.
Куда они? Они в одно место просто бахнули.
This guy doesn't know this, by the way. I'll tell you all this. After they're fired, they take a pretty high arc when fired, but then they start going back towards the ground, and they usually fly at a lower altitude. So what he's seeing is that they're, one, going over the horizon, and two, they're also getting down to a lower altitude. They don't get lobbed into Ukraine like an IRBM or an ICBM. These usually fly at lower altitudes.
Все в одно место упали.
Whoa.
Wow.
Oh, it was a critical failure. Oh my god. Right over the city.
Wow. Right there, like literally right after it was launched, it failed.
Yeah, right over the port, it had a critical failure. And there's a large mass of the burning rocket that's falling onto the port below.
Бам!
Oh, damn.
Возле порта там.
It looks like it might have fallen in the water right off of the side of the port, so kind of lucky for the people below, but that is wildly unsafe for the Russians to be firing off missiles like these right over a populated area, literally in the middle of the city. I've never seen anything like that before, but an absolutely crazy sort of a development. And once again showing us the Russians are getting incredibly scared of losing any additional ships. They are firing off missiles from inside the port. So right now, folks, the Russian Navy, at least the Black Sea Fleet, isn't even a fleet anymore. It's basically the Black Sea missile launching forces, or the rocket forces, like they are on land. They literally sit here at the port, load the ships up right at the pier with the missiles, and then basically use the ship as a giant multiple launch rocket system, and do nothing else with the ships beyond that. I have a feeling that these things are probably going to be heavily dilapidated by the end of the war due to the lack of maintenance, and also the fact that the engines are probably idling most of the time and are not being put under any form of stress or power. But moving on out of the port of Novorossiysk and all that interesting stuff that happened there today, we are going to be moving on into another big piece of news that is not too far away, down in the Islamic Republic of Iran. But before we get on into all of that Islamic Republic of Iran news, I've got to say, folks, strap yourselves in. This is all, I'm going to have to explain everything that's going on today because it's a bit of a bigger picture deal that this news is attached to today. So strap yourselves in because I'm going to explain everything that's been going on so far that makes the news that we heard today a bit of a big deal. The Islamic Republic of Iran is dealing with an incredibly strenuous situation inside their country currently. Due to their development or attempted development of nuclear weaponry, the United States of America and the State of Israel engaged Iran in the middle part of this year in what was called the 12-Day War, and for the United States it was called Operation Midnight Hammer. Operation Midnight Hammer and the 12-Day War generally were supposed to decimate or largely destroy the Iranian Air Force and Air Defense Force abilities, and the Operation Midnight Hammer, conducted by the United States, was generally supposed to knock out and destroy most of their nuclear research and production abilities. Generally, Operation Midnight Hammer has now generally largely been considered a failure, but the 12-Day War was quite successful in destroying Iranian ground-based air defense forces and a large part of the Iranian Air Force as well. Since then, the Islamic Republic of Iran has been living with the aftermath of that situation, practically having really no way to defend their skies, which in the modern world basically means they are opening up for future attacks. Then additionally, we've started to see that the internal and domestic situation within the country is rapidly deteriorating as well, due to the apocalyptic sort of conditions that are now existing within the city of Tehran. Many of y'all have most likely been familiarized or have at least heard about the biblical story of the 7 plagues of Egypt, where the locusts filled the skies and destroyed all the crops, and where the Nile River flowed with blood, and so on and so forth. And largely the same thing is happening to Tehran inside of the Islamic Republic of Iran, but in a more modern twist. The air quality within the capital city of Iran is generally so low that on some days of the week now, inside of the capital, they have to completely close the city and give shelter-in-place orders because going outside could be deadly because of the air quality. Additionally, due to decades of drought and a complete lack of an ability of the Islamic Republic of Iran's government to care, they've now started to run into critical water shortages, to the point that the groundwater reservoirs have been completely depleted, and also the above-ground reservoirs are quite literally disappearing day after day. We've also seen that as a result of this, the Islamic Republic of Iran is also going through a little bit more of additional strain and starting to see a great deal of anti-government sentiments starting to pop up throughout the entirety of the country. Recently, this finally just boiled over in the area around Shiraz in the Fars province as a large group of Iranians started to conduct anti-regime protests. These protests then rapidly devolved into riots. The Iranian authorities attempted to try and go in and confiscate the vehicles as punishment of these people for their ongoing riot, The internal security services were almost stoned to death as a result and had to flee the area as quickly as possible, although they were armed. At the moment, these rebellions within the Fars province are still ongoing at the moment, from what we understand. And we also are now hearing that today, the Islamic Republic of Iran is apparently seeing that this situation is going to start rapidly getting out of control. The Islamic Republic of Iran is now announcing that they are going to be increasing the abilities and modernizing the Basij paramilitary forces, which are the internal security arm that is used to suppress unrest. They claim the Basij now has about 10 million members, which would be a little bit over 10% of the total of the population of Iran. They published this video today showing the Basij off, which is clearly a message to the Iranian public that any sort of attempts to deride or even rise up against the Islamic Republic of Iran's government will be met with practically death or bloodshed.
Oh, wow, look at this cinematography here. They've got a lot of weapons. Look at these little crappers, little like Jeep ripoffs or something. I don't even know what the hell that is.
Isn't that the flag of Hezbollah?
I think so. Anything holding up like a rifle above your head or something like that's got to be like a terror group.
Oh, man. The PASGT helmet. Like, man.
That guy right there is looking a little, like he's got mortar on the mind or something like that. He's got that bad look in his eyes.
Man, he's like, man, I wish your mother. Man, like, it's like, yo, calm down, dude. They have the dogs on the roof.
Those dogs are eating better than, some people are these days.
Man. Oh, of course they have to have a picture of a martyr on the car. Obviously, they have to have that. Oh, wait a minute. Are those Uzis? Are those Israeli-made Uzis? Wow. Man,
I thought it was a Glock with a micro-Roni on it for a minute. I thought it was like a kid.
Oh, no, Matthew. These are the radical Islamics that actually use Israeli-made weapons to put down the people. I mean, you couldn't get more ironic than that. The radical Islamic State within the region is using Israeli-made, generally what Jewish design, which is their sworn enemy, guns, submachine guns, to suppress their own people who are also Islamic. I gotta tell you, the irony there is layered on thick. That is pretty wild to see. This guy also has what I would describe as a modern version of the M3 grease gun, or in Fallout 4, this would be called a Raider pipe gun.
Honestly. And also, why do they have to hide their faces like this? I mean, why do militaries have to like cover their entire face, wear black shades? You can't tell who they are or anything.
I mean, honestly, man, this guy's got his face so covered up, it seems like he's about to hop out of a car with a whole bunch of guys also with their faces covered and go, "Excuse me, are you a citizen? Can you show me your papers?" Like, but,
yeah. well, you know.
I mean, it's kind of getting there. And also we could see the Iveco. You always have to have an Iveco and some Toyotas. With electronic warfare.
Whoa. Was that a vacation travel box with a built-in electronic? It is. It's one of those travel boxes that soccer moms put on the top of their cars to go on vacation, but they've put an electronic warfare system in it. I've never seen anything like that.
I've never seen anything like that either. We can also see them showing off the drones. Holy moly. Does this guy need a bigger optic for an AK? An AK has an effective range of 500 yards. He's seeing into the future with that scope that's on that thing. Holy moly, look at that. That thing is as big as the receiver.
Man, we got an AK sniper out here. I've never seen that either. This is a first.
I've never seen anything like that in my life. So also apparently, if you rise up against the government, they're just going to smack you with an FPV drone armed with an RPG probably. Oh my god. Oh, wait a minute. Did that guy have an RPK? It looks like he does. Oh, wow. All these guys do. Huh. Light machine guns against the public. That's something. Oh, and they got the band.
They got a band, too. I bet they sound beautiful. They probably sound horrible.
Man, I bet you they got their version of like a pop singer, and they're like, the swing of the sword, the flash of the blade. Like, it's something like that. Oh, my lord. And the stupid baseball caps with the overly long brim really tops off the whole deal. And the fact that they seem to not really have a consistent salute, a hand salute, seems to also be adding to this whole deal.
They said,
Man,
It didn't come through. Only parts and bits and pieces of it came through. Thankfully, it wasn't the whole thing.
I've never seen a guy in my life, man. I've never seen a blood cant a baseball hat on someone's head. Who in the hell ever thinks, wow, that's stylish. Let me put my baseball hat at an odd angle on my head. How the world do you even do that?
I didn't know they had Bloods in Iran.
Oh, dude. Well, they do. But it's only after the U.S. hits them with a drone strike. Like Soleimani. That's
Oh,
how
damn.
like, man, I'm just being honest here.
I heard they're building a lot of crypts too.
Crypts to put them in. Like, man, that's 6 feet under.
Yeah, the crypt.
Oh, and wow, what a myriad of stuff. This guy's using irons. This guy has what looks to be an EOTech or an EOTech ripoff. This guy seems to have I think it's a Blomo in Russian. This guy also has one. They are showing off that stupid...
Blomo?
A Blomo. It's a B-E-L-O-M-O.
Oh, Blomo.
No, it's if you're under 30, Blomo's always flirting.
I was about to say I wouldn't be caught dead with an optic called Blomo.
Yeah, what kind of optic is that? Oh, it's just my Blomo. Like, I'm going around the block with the Blomo. Now you see them giving a little speech. Zip lining while...
Oh, they're zip lining with this flag. What is this, like Six Flags or something? I mean, what are they doing? This is like a tourist attraction.
Yeah, where did he stick the flagpoles to... I don't think we want to know the answer to that, but I don't really know how that's attached to him and he's, on the zip line at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh yeah, they're ready for war. Do you notice they seem to look a little thirsty?
Man, they do seem to look a little parched. I wonder if they would like a glass of water. Also, by the way, they're not going to war with Israel with this whole deal, by the way, folks. They're going to war with their own people. That's the point of this force. We're getting an outro? Oh my god, they have their own little stupid outro, like everyone else has. Wow.
Oh.
Well, anyways, to get the whole thing around in the big picture, that whole little advertisement they had there was just to remind their people that they'll kill all of them if they try and rise up. So that is what the whole video was for. And of course, everyone, we all know that whenever you try and, get involved in a riot or the uprising against the government, the thing you have to fear most is a guy on a zip line with 2 Iranian flags shoved up his ass, flying at you at full speed. That is what you always have to worry about the most. A lot of people are actually talking about the unrest inside of Iran and the fact that the Iranian government is having to publicly make sort of a message to their own people that they will put them down violently if need be and probably kill as many of them as they possibly have to keep the government intact. And Matthew, what are people thinking about that kind of a message? And what are you thinking about as well? Are a lot of people thinking that shows a lot of confidence in the Iranian government, that they have a hold on the situation? Or does it look like things are going out of control pretty quickly?
All right. So apparently yesterday, after the Iranian government saw the stoning that happened down in the Fars province, that left the Iranian leadership doing the shimmy. They got very, very scared. And as of this morning, they were literally like, let's quickly modernize our security forces really quick, urgently. No real reason to do so, but let's just accidentally really quickly modernize our internal security because it looks like things might be getting a little out of hand. And they're doing this to suppress the unrest that they're expecting in the near future. So is civil war imminent? Will it get that serious? 44% said yes, Iranian civil war is very likely, while 29% said no, riots will simply become common and it will remain like that, and 20% said it is now a 50-50 chance. So the stoning that we saw yesterday, that was a very bad sign because usually in Iran, most people kind of know, for example, the Russians living under Putin's regime, they know that the Iranian regime will put them down. They do know that. So it's very rare to see big riots or protests because that usually does not end well, and the Iranian people know that. So for them to be stoning the internal security forces of the Iranian regime, that's a big step. So that shook the Iranian leadership very badly, shook them very bad. And I personally believe it's a 50-50 chance. Because remember, if the people run out of water, what other options do they have at that point? They've got to rise up, or otherwise they're going to die of thirst. So they don't really have an option here. It's more of a mandatory thing for them to rise up out of necessity. So I would say I'm with the 20%. It's a 50-50 chance, depending on if the Iranians can actually put down dissent effectively. A civil war might actually break out and start taking hold. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, folks, I actually think that some form of a civil war, or at least some sort of an open rebellion against the Iranian government, is highly likely in the future. It largely is happening right now, but I have a feeling it's going to have to get a lot more violent than it is at the moment. Inevitably, due to the emergency of the situation that exists there, with the fact that they're running out of water. So I have a feeling that some form of civil unrest is going to be happening here incredibly soon, because the Iranians cannot really wait much longer. If they do, they're all going to start dying. So they have to find some way to fix the situation. And really, the only way to try and fix the situation, or at least attempt to fix the situation, which is largely unfixable at this point, is to try and overthrow the government that created the problem. So, we'll see. But also, Matthew, you know that whole thing I was talking about with that guy? I was like, where in the world did they even put those flags on that guy on the zip line? You know what he reminded me of? He reminded me of that clip from the SpongeBob movie where Patrick came flying in on a parachute with that flag between his butt cheeks. Like, that's what he was doing. Like, y'all know what I'm talking about,
I hope
right?
nobody reuses that flag. They ought to like toss that and maybe even burn it, perhaps, honestly, or stomp on it. Even maybe stomping on the flag, it might work too.
Man, so, when that guy got off the zip line, they're like, "You did great work, inshallah." Hey, why do these flags smell like shit? Man, like they're like, what's up?
Hey,
with
yo,
that?
these flagpoles smell a little rank. What's going on here?
Man, someone in the Iranian security forces sat there and smelled that flag and said, "Hey, this flag is ass," and then they got arrested for criticizing the Iranian flag. Oh man! But anyways, folks, it is time for us to move on out of the Islamic Republic of Iran and all of the problems that they're having right now, because we did get to hear that the Israelis are still having problems with Hamas, which I do have to point out, by the way, was supposed to have dismantled itself by now, and they're still in the Gaza Strip. Who would have thought that, folks? Who in the world would have thought that a peace treaty that involved the good faith and credit of the word of a terrorist force would end up turning out poorly? Who would have ever thought that? Not me. I always thought terrorists held up their word. I thought this is what they were always known for, was being gentlemen of their word and doing things the right way. I'm, of course, being heavily sarcastic in that. The Israelis have decided to take matters into their own hands, and they slapped them today with a JDAM from an F-15, and ended up killing a couple of them when they crawled out of a tunnel in Rafah. Also, by the way, they were supposed to have completely gotten rid of their tunnels as well, or at least told the Israelis where all of them were, so that way they could be destroyed by the Israelis, and they also didn't do that either. So these armed terrorists came crawling out of a hole. They're not supposed to be armed, and they aren't supposed to be in hidey holes, so the Israelis slammed them with a JDAM, and it appears that this whole thing is probably going to be coming back around to happening again. I'll be honest with y'all, I'm generally a fan of trying to be a little bit more reserved and doing things by the book, but at the same time, if you agreed in a treaty with the Israelis, or anyone for that matter, that you were going to dismantle your terrorist force, and then you don't, I mean, that's how you end up getting a JDAM slammed down into your hidey hole on a whole bunch of guys with AKs. That's how that happens. So it seems as though it's going to be coming back around to being a little occupation of the Strip again, which at this point, I mean, it's a very tricky sort of a situation, but I mean, at that point, what can we say? And on top of that, Hamas is supported by the Iranians, so if the Israelis are going back in to deal with Hamas, I really can't make a big deal out of that at all. In fact, I would be for it. But we also
Honestly, Israel's got to do what it's got to do, because at the same time, my initial perspective on it was Israel should not be negotiating with terrorists in the first place. It was more of the U.S. that kind of forced them into that in the first place, with the whole peace deal, kind of like they're trying to do with Ukraine too. Israel really did not want a peace deal, but the U.S. told them, do it because it looks good politically, so just do this for us. So Israel's like, well, we better do it. We don't lose support. So they did it. But obviously, Israel's trying to find every which way they can to basically finish the job, which they probably wanted to do in the first place. So they just got to finish it. And also Hamas has given them all the justification in the world to go finish the job, as they're breaking the agreement that they even had in the first place. So, they're getting it done.
And I'd have to say, they certainly are getting it done. That's for sure. Meanwhile, the President of the United States has now gotten involved directly in asking the President, Isaac Herzog of Israel, to fully pardon Benjamin Netanyahu, calling the prosecution a political unjustified case and crediting Netanyahu for leading Israel into a time of peace, which kind of aged like milk, considering that the Israelis are bombing Hezbollah and Hamas just over the course of today. That's something that's going on at the moment. And I gotta say that it is a little bit it's a little bit interesting, folks, because I just want to say this because this is important for the bigger picture here, for consistency's sake. Netanyahu is currently under prosecution in Israel for allegations of corruption that he was involved in, and that's what the ongoing prosecution is about at the moment. So we're asking the Israeli government to pardon Netanyahu for the allegation of corruption. Meanwhile, there's allegations against corruption on Andrei Yermak. And we're not asking for Andrei Yermak to be pardoned. We're actually making it sound like that's working against Ukraine, against their favor, and that ought to make them give up on the war in Ukraine a whole lot quicker because of the corruption case going on there. So I just want to once again point out a little bit of a double standard here. With Netanyahu and his alleged corruption is totally fine. As a matter of fact, he ought to get a pardon, and there ought to not even be any looking into the matter. But when the Ukrainians get involved in the corruption, then we've got to see that the entire war that they're fighting, which is justified in their own self-defense, has to come to an end, because God forbid there's any corruption anywhere. So I got to say a little bit hypocritical with that, not getting political here, because I don't really think it's political to point out when there's clearly hypocrisy going on here, but that's a little hypocritical that allegations of Israeli corruption is no big issue, but allegations of Ukrainian corruption is world-ending, quite literally, for the war in Ukraine and everything else in Europe for that matter. But anyways, moving on out of that and out of the state of Israel, and also I saw someone say, it's harassment from certain political factions in Israel. Well, I mean, you could say the same thing about Yermak. It's like, did Yermak conduct any of the corruption he's involved in? We don't know. They're just allegations. So he may have been involved in nothing. It may have been some sort of a political witch hunt in Ukraine that they're trying to oust Yermak from the opposition. You could say the same thing. Like the thing is that it's an allegation. Like, this is what I'm trying to flesh out here. It's an allegation of corruption. So either they're going to be a big deal, just the fact of the allegation across the board, or they're not going to be a big deal across the board. It's not a big deal in Israel, but it's a big deal in Ukraine when allegations of corruption come around. Isn't that kind of a little well, it's not kind of inconsistent. It is inconsistent at its face. So, just wanted to make that a little bit of a point to say, shouldn't we be trying to do the same thing across the board? I mean, honestly, I would say domestic concerns of corruption in a foreign country are no concern of ours. We shouldn't even be getting involved in trying to get Netanyahu apart, and that's entirely an internal Israeli affair, and if they want to prosecute him, they'll prosecute him. If they don't, they don't. Same thing with Ukraine. If they want to prosecute Yermak, they will. If they don't, they don't. That's an internal issue in a whole other country. We're just there backing someone in the area because we have a common enemy. Like with Israel, we have the common enemy of Iran. With them, that's what makes us allies. With Ukraine, we have the common enemy of the Russians. That's what makes us allies. The internal domestic situations in these countries don't really matter. So I don't know why in the world we're always trying to act like it matters in some cases and then it doesn't matter in others. That's what I'm trying to say. But anyways, moving on from that, and on into probably the weirdest piece of news out of the Middle East today. Inside of Oman, Lukashenko has gone missing. He's just completely vanished from the public view. And this is a little video that was made by Belarusian media of Lukashenko's jet arriving in Muscat in Oman. And he showed up, no official state visit, no leaders meeting him there. And then he just disappeared off into Oman. We don't know where he is. We haven't known where he is for 3 straight days.
Also, why is he wearing like a blue prison jumper? What is he even wearing?
Isn't that thing that dude wore in the movie 1984?
Really, that's a strange outfit for him. Oh, whoa, wait a minute. Do you notice something wrong with this image? Go back to the video for a second. Do you notice something missing? There's something bad wrong with this image.
What's wrong with it?
Where's his dog?
Oh my God. Where did it go?
Fluffy's not here. Fluffy goes to everything. Diplomatic meetings with Putin, meetings with the devil. Fluffy's always with him. Fluffy's not here. That's weird.
Man, that actually is pretty wild. Where the hell is the dog? Like, really? But also, man, dude, he's got that damn fit from the movie 1984 right here. He's about to go strong and peaceful. Man,
oh my God, man. He said, he's reporting for Ingsoc.
Dude, he sat there and said, "Do you have the Book of Goldstein?" Man, bro, he's about to have the thought police on his ass dressing up like that. Man, I mean, honestly, man, I gotta be straight up with you. That's the worst fit I've seen on someone in a minute. Dude, that is literally the 1984 movie fit. I mean, it's the same collar and everything on that shirt. Like, even with a white t-shirt underneath right there, same thing right there. Like, literally the same deal. I never like.
Do you think that Putin put him out here and just like, said, you're going to Oman? They put him in the blue prison jumper. They took Fluffy, put him in the pound, and they sent Lukashenko out here to exile or something?
That's a good question. And also, I saw someone else say something else. Where the hell is his mustache? Did he shave?
I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of weird too. There's a lot of weird stuff, like weird small stuff going on here.
I don't know what to make of any of this, folks, to be entirely honest with y'all, but he's gone missing now in Oman. We don't know what's up with him or where he's at. Not that anyone really cares, but, he's missing for the moment. Anyways, moving on out of Oman, it is time for us to get on into some more news from around the world. But before we do, though, I do have to say that the fundraiser is doing swimmingly. We are over halfway to the goal in an hour. Hey! We've reached...
All right, let's go! Oh!
Whoa! But beyond that, we are $1,307 to the $2,500 goal. Holy moly! That's a decent amount of support to this fundraiser. That is, of course, massively helping out folks in Ukraine thanks to the amazing work that Nova Ukraine does inside of their country. And of course, I do want to make sure that we take a moment to recognize at least some of the folks, the top donors, who have helped to make this fundraiser possible tonight to even get to this point. But before we get to that, I also have to say a huge shout out to everyone who supported, both to the folks who are able to call out and the folks we aren't able to call out. All of y'all make this possible for us to have these fundraisers and to help to continue to support the very people that we're covering news on from around the world. And for that, we're always greatly appreciative, and we have to say a humongous thanks to so many people who are continuing to support the cause in Ukraine and the ongoing fight as much as they can, even 1,376 days in. So Matthew, who are the top donors of the night?
All right, so jumping into our top donors here, our first one is going to be from Espen Turgenhagen, and Espen put in a massive $200 donation to the fundraiser tonight, the largest one of the night, actually, and a huge shout out to Espen for that massive generosity. Also, a huge shout out to Hal Rose for putting in a $100 donation to the fundraiser, also massive, and then we had a $50 from Mike Young, as well as a $50 from AKA Cully, as well as a $50 from Skip Tracer 007, and so far, those are the top donors of the night. And we are currently over halfway to goal. We are sitting at about $1,300 raised. So we are about halfway there. So a little bit more progress, we'll be smashing that goal. I'm very confident that we'll be smashing that goal harder than the Russian military is getting smashed these days. I say that's a tough smashing there. That's a pounding. But Enforcer, tell us more.
I gotta say, an absolutely massive thanks to all of the top donors who have been helping out this fundraiser over the course of the night, and everyone else who's been helping out. We are getting not incredibly close, we are halfway there to getting to the $2,500 goal. And I know that we will hit that $2,500 goal before the end of the night, because the Lee Spring Army has never missed a fundraiser goal in the history of the channel. So, hopefully we'll be able to see that we hit the fundraiser goal once again tonight, and a massive shout out to everyone who has once again been supporting the fundraiser tonight, because all of y'all are once again making a huge difference in Ukraine for the folks who will be helped by Nova Ukraine throughout the next coming weeks and months. So a humongous thanks to all of y'all so much once again, and we are going to be making sure to get on into our questions. We're going to be getting 3 questions in this segment before we return back to the news. And so what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so first of all, let's jump into our poll question right now about Lukashenko. What is he doing in Oman? Because the Belarusian leader has disappeared after arriving in Oman. He's had no public appearances in days, and many people are saying that he's missing, disappeared, choose your verb. They're saying he's gone somehow. So what are your thoughts? It looks like 32% say he's just taking a short break, while 26% said he's been exiled by Vladimir Putin, and 25% said something might have happened to him. So I've seen everything at this point. Rumors all over the board. Some people say he's having a medical procedure in Oman and he's left the country to go down there to secretly get one. I don't know why he would go to Oman for a medical procedure. I'm not sure if maybe the hospital facilities are better. I'm not really sure, but that's what some people are saying. So I would personally say, to me, it seems like he's probably taking a short break, because while it is possible that maybe he's pissed off Putin in some way or another and it's his punishment, I don't think they'd be filming it and showing him getting off the plane and literally going into Oman if it was something like that. I think it would be a lot differently handled by Putin. So I think he's just taking a break. Yeah, he could be burnt out. Maybe he's mourning the loss of Fluffy, because we don't know where that dog went. But yeah, who knows what's going on with this guy? He's a loon. But Enforcer, what say you?
Good, to be honest with you, I am tired. I'm an old man. I go to Oman. I took the oh man. I'm tired, and I see what I did there. I made the pun on the country's name. I said, "Oh man," like "Oh man," but I'm tired. I need a break, please. And Putin, he drives me like crazy. And we took that weird picture in the lemon grove where we were like almost shirtless, and he was touching my nipple. And I have to take a break from this stuff. I'm tired of it, boss. I can't take it anymore. Like, I can't do it.
So I think he's actually taking a break. I would be the 32%. I don't think it's anything crazy, and I also think that's why he's practically gone missing, is because it's nothing to do with the country of Belarus, and it's nothing to do with any dealings in Oman, probably. It's probably more internal affairs. So that's what I generally assume at the moment. So with that, I hope that does address that well. And also, if you thought I was making fun of that whole, like, Putin and Lukashenko and the Lemon Grove thing, let me go pull up Putin and Lukashenko, because I can show you the whole deal in the Lemon Grove. It was very odd. It's very, very odd. Let's see here. Yeah, here we are. This is it. It's me and Putin in the Lemon Grove. And in one of these pictures, he's, like, touching my breast.
You see, he's just a simple man. He's here with his shirt unbuttoned down a little bit just to be getting some fresh air. That's all. Also, that looks like a body double for Putin. That doesn't even look like the real deal.
This is a classic meeting of the two leaders. And Putin did this weird thing. He touched my breast through his shirt in one of these pictures. And I don't know why he did that. It's kind of a little sus, but that's why I'm down here in Oman right now. But moving on from that, I hope we addressed the poll well. And we are on to the first question of the three within this question segment.
All right. So first of all, we do have a couple of super chat questions. They are still thrown in on Sunday, by the way, before we get to our live chats. So our first super chat goes to Craig Jones, who puts in a 10. And Craig said, "Happy holidays, Enforcers, from U.S. Air Force. We fly high, and our condolences to the Army." Oh, damn. Damn. That's ugly. That's getting ugly.
Damn. The Air Force laying down the law. But I got to thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And a big happy holidays to you from here on the Enforcer channel. I got to say, it's a great thing to know that we have folks from all the services watching our channel. We have all kinds of folks. Not even folks in the armed services, folks from government services. We've like people from the Forestry Service, the National Parks, and everything else in between. Really cool, honestly, when you think about it. And we even have some people from ICE who watch the show, and I actually see them in the comments section sometimes. They go, "Are you a citizen? Do you have papers?" And they just keep spamming that. It's a little odd. But beyond that, I do have to say a big thanks to you massively so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep rolling. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible to have a holiday season here on Enforcer. And so with that, it's time for us to move on to the next one.
And our next one is a $5 super chat from Elko Sir. And thank you very much, Elko, for that $5 support. And they said the world is in turmoil, and with Ukraine under pressure by the United States, the U.S. foreign envoy with their own thing going on, and Iran and Venezuela in crisis, it's a 9.7 on the Bliat scale.
It's a pretty crazy time. The world is always falling apart. Always and forever. Always and forever. There's never a time when the world isn't falling apart. It's in a constant state of it. And somehow we build ourselves up while we're always falling apart. Really weird how it works. But beyond that, I do have to say that that's a pretty accurate scale on the Bliat scale right there. And so with that, a big thanks to you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to move it on to the next one. And the last one of this segment before we get to the news. So Matthew, what do we got?
And this one goes to Johepe Larico, who puts in a $3 super chat. And he said, "Show Russian politicians and military men's net worth." Oh, you want to see Putin's net worth? You can pull that up. It's basically like the whole Russian government's like his piggy bank, essentially.
Let's see here. To Putin net worth is believed. Putin's official income is only $140,000 US a year. He's a modest man, but he is believed.
That's not modest in Russia. That's like being a millionaire or something. That's like making $1 million a year for Russian money.
Look, are you a comedian or are you a news reporter? Anyways, as I was saying about Yaroslav the Wise,
but beyond that, he actually has a net worth of about $200 billion. I wouldn't be able to break it down for the rest of them because they actually kind of like muddy up the waters with that to make it a lot more difficult to figure out how much most of them are actually worth. So it is on up there for a lot of them, but I wouldn't be able to give you the exact figures because they're not exactly transparent like the U.S. is about the net worths of like our representatives and our so-ons. So that way we can sit there and go, hey, wait a minute. It seems like they're making money from side jobs. Like my brand new book, which it's always interesting, folks. You know, whenever anyone in America starts running low on cash, they always just happen to be publishing a book right at that moment. Isn't that kind of odd? Like, isn't that odd? They just have a book, like a 400-page book, lined up right at that moment for them to put out right then and there. I find that a little interesting. Who the hell's writing them? Like that's my question. Where in the world did they find the time to go write a 400-page book? But anyways, with that, I hope that does address it well. But unfortunately, they're so crooked and corrupt that we can't even figure out how much they're actually worth because they kind of hide that a good deal. And also, Putin's net worth is even estimated. We don't even know how much it really is exactly, but we think it's 200 billion, but it could be more than that. But anyways, with that, we are on to the last question of the segment, and then we're going to be getting on into the rest of the news.
And that was our last question. But while we're at it, though, a big shout out to AJ for putting in a $140 donation for Fundraiser and bringing it up to almost 1,500 raised. We are exactly 1,000 away from the goal, and it is getting very, very close to being smashed. So it's almost time for a general order, I think, folks. It's getting close to it.
I think it is getting close. What like that? To doing a general order. We will have to see, though. We'll still wait. We'll wait a little bit later on, but we'll see. We'll see, boy.
But anyways, with that, it is time for us to get on into the rest of our news. The Chinese are starting to bring on the vice clamp onto their people. China is tightening the screws. At least that's what according to Nexta. Because, you know, censorship is only subjective. I mean, you know, who in the world could sit there and say that we are not as censored as the Chinese? I mean, you know, it's not like in this country, you know, you could sit there and say whatever you want, really. In China, you can't say that at all. But anyways, Xi Jinping has ordered stricter control over the internet. China already has extremely heavy censorship. Many foreign apps are blocked. Pretty much all of them are. And Western film studios are forced to comply with Communist Party demands if they don't want to lose access to the Chinese market. And I kind of don't like that, folks. I kind of don't like that at all, how American companies will cater and pretty much pander to the Chinese Communist Party so that way they can access the Chinese market. But under the Chinese leader's directive, authorities must intensify oversight of online platforms, bloggers, and MCN agencies that manage influencer accounts. They are required to show social responsibility and to spread only positive content.
Only positive content. The Chinese crack me up with their the way they phrase their censorship initiatives. They said only positive content, only butterflies and rainbows, people. That's all we can have here. Only positivity. They said, well, Mr. Xi, what about the poor state of the Chinese real estate market? That's negativity right there. That's minus 10,000 social credit points. And also, we have a place for you to go. It's a special college where you can get re-educated too.
Man, you know, in China, folks, they provide free public education and free public re-education, just in case you forget some things from time to time. Oh, long live the party, of course. But still, it looks as though they're going to be getting on into sunshine and rainbows and unicorns. You know, folks, I got to be honest with y'all with how a lot of people actually operate around the world. They actually think it's sunshine, flowers, rainbows, and unicorns in China because China censors everything that doesn't make them look like that. If only America didn't have the First Amendment, we could just sit there and put anyone in prison that ever criticized the United States and make the U.S. look just like China, at least in people's public perception. I mean, wouldn't that be the greatest thing? I mean, sure, everyone will lose their freedom of speech and expression, you know, and that's just an unfortunate, you know, loss, but we could still make America look good, and we could go up to those skyscrapers, the new ones that you just built in New York, that have the LEDs on them, and film a shitty TikTok, and then put that out, and millions of people will believe that America is the greatest place on earth again. That'd be incredible. I'm just kidding, by the way. That's absolutely stupid. But anyways, moving on from that, and out of China, it is time for us to start on moving on over. Y'all guessed it. To Captain Craig Sparrow and his band of 40 thieves, because the news only gets better here in the Caribbean every day, every week. A NOTAM has been issued within southern Venezuela, within this region right here, apparently due to military aircraft activity. We believe this is Venezuelan military aircraft activity, if I'm not mistaken. But that is the reason why these NOTAMs were issued. Moving on from that, we also heard within the capital of Caracas that apparently The Russians are now officially beginning evacuations of their citizens, with special flights being arranged to move people out of the country, according to the Association of Russian Tour Operators, or ATORAs, as they call them. So it does appear that they're going to be getting their people out of Venezuela. Why in the world would anyone take a vacation to Venezuela in their right mind is beyond me, but apparently they are. We also saw that apparently Hugo Chavez's brother, Argenis, says he will support Maduro to the end and will use his martial arts skills to defeat the United States if they invade.
I love it. You gotta love it right here. You gotta love it.
I cannot play the video, folks, due to possible copyright issues. But if you want to see the video, the link for the map is in the description below, and y'all can go down there and check this out for yourselves. It is a treat. It really is. This is the guy, by the way, who's doing the martial arts. He looks like the Chud Jack, like in the face, and he's the one who's saying that he's going to defeat the whole U.S. military with his jiu-jitsu skills. I don't think this guy has ever heard of a rifle in his life, because rifles always beat jiu-jitsu. We all know that. So I don't know what his plan is. Maybe he's John Wick or something in disguise, but I don't think he's going to be really hanging in there for that long if he tries that trick on the U.S. military. So, you know, that's how it is. You know, something that's always something interesting, folks. You know, people always talk about this, and I always think about this in a big perspective. Some people are always like, oh, where in the world is, like, European martial arts, you know, because like the Chinese have like kung fu, and I believe South Korea has taekwondo, and Japan has karate, and you know, the Israelis have Krav Maga, and so on and so forth. Where in the world is, like, where in the world? Oh man, where in the world is European martial arts? And my answer to that is guns. Guns are European martial arts. I mean, we didn't need martial arts because we usually had incredibly long poles to stab people with throughout most of history. And then if we didn't have the incredibly long poles, then we had guns, which pretty much got rid of most of the poles and the swords and everything else. So that's why we really don't have a lot of martial arts. Also, I do see someone saying that there is historical European martial arts, HEMA. That's true, but still, like, martial arts is like an art form, or as like an actual fighting style in the West, generally doesn't exist. We just have like bare knuckle boxing, or just boxing in the modern day, or guns, because guns are much more effective than karate. I'll tell you. I'll tell you that. A lot of people, you know, there was actually this group, folks, back in the day in China that rebelled against the Dowager Kuji, I believe, in 1899, and it was called the Boxer Rebellion. And these guys had no guns, and we had guns. Guess who in the world won? It wasn't the martial arts guys that rose up against the Qing dynasty. It was us. We won, because guns win. Like, the martial arts deal doesn't really work too well when you got guns. So I'll just be honest with y'all. I don't think that guy has gotten the message on that yet. And also, they'll probably just sit there, man. Imagine the Marines seeing that guy in the street, like, doing, like, kick flips. Sir, get down! Get down, bro! Get down on the floor!
Honestly,
man.
It's not a bad strategy, though, because, you know, they'll probably take sympathy on him if they see him in the streets, like, doing that, like, beginner karate tricks in the street. They'll probably be like, oh, look at that guy. Like, something must be wrong with him. Go ahead and put him off to the side. Like, just save him for later or something.
Man, I'll be, bro, they're gonna be like, hit him with a pepper ball, bro, and see what happens. But anyways, with that, we're gonna be moving on into Europe, as we did get to hear today, out of Europe, that the Europeans have apparently been doing a little bit of cost analysis, and this is what they've apparently found out. Funding Ukraine's war effort over 4 years will cost the European governments between $600 and $1 trillion, but it would cost them almost double, between 1.4 to 1.8 trillion, to reinforce its eastern flank if Moscow gets its way. So in the long run, in financial sense, it would actually make a lot more financial sense to just keep giving weapons to Ukraine and continue the war that way than it would be to let Ukraine lose the war and then have to build up their own defenses themselves from the ground up. It would actually be far cheaper. So for the cost analysis side of things, it's a lot better to let the Ukrainians largely fight the war and win it than to have to make that Europe's problem later to where they have to fight it and win it and possibly also get nuked along with us. So once again, very important reason why we should continue to fund and support the state of Ukraine and its ongoing war effort. Additionally, if y'all didn't hear about this, there's been some pretty big news that's been coming out of the Russian Federation recently. And it does also appear that a lot of people, before we get to that, are actually talking about those Russians that are going to be evacuated out of Venezuela. And a lot of people are wondering, why would the Russians evacuate the civilians from Venezuela? And Matthew, what are people thinking about that? And what are you thinking about that as well?
All right. So we are seeing that Russia is apparently evacuating citizens from Venezuela because they care so much about the safety of their civilians, of course. They just want to fondle them, or not, well, not fondle them, but they want to keep them safe. They want to coddle them. Not fondle. Fondle is not the right word. It is coddle the Russian civilians. Even though they send them off to death in war every single day in Ukraine, they want to make sure that they don't get caught up in a bad war in Venezuela, apparently, because, of course, the U.S. is known to do horrible things to innocent civilians. So the Russians have to get them out of there before the big bad evil Americans start launching strikes and hopefully not fondling anybody. But apparently the U.S. has also issued NOTAMs for border zones too, which has been renewed until March of next year. So what is the situation? 62% said Russia was notified of imminent strikes, while 20% said Russia is playing it extra safe, and 11% said seems like something is off. So I think that Russia is probably confused. I don't think the U.S. has told them what's going to happen. I think they're confused, and they're also not able to predict when this is going to happen. So they're probably just taking a precaution by doing it now instead of later, because nobody can predict anything right now with Venezuela. It's so chaotic. Nobody knows what's going on. I'm not even sure if the people in charge know what's going on, to be perfectly honest, but it's chaos. But I'm with the 20%. And Enforcer, what say you?
I'm actually going to have to be with the 20% on that, too. I think the Russians are just playing it safe because nobody has any clue what's happening with Venezuela anymore. And folks, I'm actually going to hop right out of answering that poll and actually bring y'all to Washington really quickly to make sure that we cover why no one would know. So, moving us into Washington here really quickly. One, the president has on audio recording now distanced himself from the double tap that happened in the Caribbean that the Congress is currently investigating as a possible war crime. And this was the direct statement from the president right here in this audio published by the White House on board Air Force One about the president being asked by a journalist about the double tap and what he thinks of it. So here's the clip.
On the Venezuela boat strike, if there were a second strike that killed people wounded in the first strike, are you thinking that would be legal?
Number one, I don't know that happened. And Pete said he did not want them. He didn't even know what people were talking about. So we'll look into it. But no, I wouldn't have wanted that. Not a second strike. The first strike was very lethal. It was fine. And if there were two people around, but Pete said that didn't happen.
So generally, we'll cut it off there. But basically, and this is something quite interesting because if I remember correctly, I believe the Secretary of Defense published the footage on his personal Twitter account, much as usual. But there was a double tap that happened in the Eastern Caribbean. The Congress is currently investigating it as a possible war crime, and it sounds as though the president is distancing himself already from having any culpability of even knowing about that happening. So it looks like right now the president is going to be shifting the blame entirely, if there is any to be had here, once the Congress investigates this, entirely onto the Secretary of Defense or whoever was the Southcom commander at the time, which would be, at least for now, it still would be Admiral Halsey, who is soon to retire. So that seems.
He said a double tap. I've never heard of that woman.
Man, he said double tap. I mean, sometimes, sometimes, but
double tap kind of sounds like a schmuck. I'm not sure who they are, but I don't know who they are. Never heard of them. They kind of sound a little bit stupid. They sound like they could be like a piggy.
Man, bro, I can already. That warrior spirit, hit him, hit him again, bro. It's like, oh man. I'll be honest with y'all, folks. It looks like someone's about to get steamrolled here, honestly, with how everyone's trying to distance themselves from this. And it looks like the Secretary of Defense might actually take the fall for this if it ends up turning out ugly. Meanwhile, we did get to hear in Miami some stuff about the Ukrainians, but we'll get to that here in a minute. We also were able to hear that the president also stated these as follows. These are direct transcripted quotes from the president today. Don't read anything into me closing Venezuela airspace. Does not mean airstrikes are imminent. So now the president is saying, when I talked to the armed forces, I told them we were bombing the country soon, and I also closed down the airspace. That actually doesn't mean that we closed down the airspace or we're bombing them anytime soon. It doesn't mean that. I was just saying that for funsies. Thought it'd be kind of fun. So at the moment, we don't know when anything's going to happen against Venezuela, because now it looks like everything's on hold again. We have also heard that apparently there was a phone call that the president held with Maduro, and all he stated about it was. I wouldn't say it went well or badly. It was a phone call. So the phone call
Oh, it went damn bad. If he said that, it went horrible. It must have been the worst phone call ever if he said that.
Man, honestly, man, Maduro got on that phone and mentioned all the people. He was like, all right, stop that.
The usual statement is, oh, it's the best phone call the world has ever seen, a phone call like this. I've never heard him say anything other than that about a phone call. For him to be saying it was just a phone call, it didn't go good or bad, that must have been a damn bad call. Very bad.
Man, I wonder what in the world happened on the phone call, man. I'm honestly curious about that at this point. But yeah, apparently there was a phone call on Maduro and it went nowhere. And apparently, there's a whole bunch of additional diplomatic developments. I'll have to get you all on Ukraine here in a minute, but I want to make sure that we wrap up our European news here, which is only a few bulletins, and then we'll get back into the Ukraine developments on the negotiations before we get to the actual war. In Romania, the NATO forces today have simulated a war game to defend Europe without U.S. support. Troops were largely under French, British, or German command in the war game that was conducted in Romania today, which is showing that NATO is largely starting to consider that the U.S. may not be around if a larger war in Europe begins. So once again, pretty much removing the U.S. from having any say in the current process about the war in Ukraine, because why in the world would Europe shaft themselves now for Ukraine's benefit, considering that they'll be shafted anyways later because they're already expecting the U.S. won't show up if a war starts. So generally, a lot of questions here in the European minds at the moment. Meanwhile, in the U.S., there was a talk today between the Ukrainian delegation and the United States in Miami. We were able to tell that it went quite well because that was what the special envoy looked like.
Also, by the way, I don't know if you got the other post. Somebody got a picture of I think it was the Wojak or something, and put him next to it or something. It looked just like him. It literally had the exact same facial expression. There it is. Look at that. Look at that. Side by side, man. Go back and show just side by side. Click on the entire post itself, not just the pictures here. There you go. Look at that. I mean, it's literally the same facial expression, almost identical.
Man, I'm not gonna lie, it really does look like that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be honest with you. So we did get a couple of developments out of this today. First off, moving us back up to Washington now to talk about the Ukrainian diplomatic developments. The Secretary of State stated that he wanted to make Ukraine safe.
We want to end the war. We also want to help Ukraine be safe forever. So never.
Can we show this?
I think we can. But he said he wanted Ukraine to be safe forever so that way they won't face another invasion. Take that for what you will. Also, we were able to hear that apparently the President of the United States is saying that the Ukrainian corruption scandal is not helpful amid talks to end the war. There was a full statement that he made on Air Force One about this, but this is the paraphrase statement, pretty much surmising it. And I gotta say once again, folks, isn't it a little bit odd that there's allegations of corruption against Netanyahu and the president's going out of his way to ask the Israeli government to give him a pardon, but then when there's allegations of corruption in Ukraine, apparently that's damning and that's a big reason to end the war. I mean, if we applied that same logic with the Israelis, we'd tell them that they have to disarm themselves and let Hamas and Hezbollah take over and win because Netanyahu has allegations of corruption against him. I don't either one of the statements on their own, you could make them out to be fine. But when you put them side by side, considering that they were both made in the same day, and they're completely different statements depending on the situation, I mean, can't you say, that's very inconsistent? There's got to be some sort of a consistent approach taken at some point to every situation. That's how I would look at it. I'll be honest with y'all, if I was the president, I would just tell all of y'all, look, the internal matters of a foreign country are none of our concerns. If they have allegations of corruption, we have allegations of corruption here in the U.S. I don't see everyone sticking their nose or fingers in the American pie to try and say that they like or don't like the corruption going on here, and that's none of our business overseas. That would be my approach in answer to any allegations of corruption in any foreign country conducted by someone that is not a representative of the United States. But
and also, really, how the audacity of the U.S. to point out, for example, one guy in the Ukrainian government has a corruption scandal, which was the fellow that just left. He has a corruption scandal, and all of a sudden the U.S. starts using that as a talking point. They're having a little corruption. They're having a little corruption. It's didn't we just comment the other day about how Putin literally like windows people if they don't do exactly what he wants? Is that not like the ultimate form of corruption? He literally just like gets rid of people that's causing a problem. And we're not going to comment on that. I haven't heard the U.S. say, oh, he's a really bad man. He does really bad stuff. I don't hear that. But yet at the same time, one guy has a corruption scandal about some kickbacks or something, alleged kickbacks, and all of a sudden it's, let's start using that as leverage to start basically strong arming Ukraine.
Yeah, I just don't get it, to be entirely honest with y'all. It's crazy to me that kind of hypocrisy can exist. And what's even crazier, folks, is that you can point out the hypocrisy in the literal written and spoken statements in a day and go, isn't this a little bit unfair and hypocritical to say one thing in one place and do a 180 in a completely different place with the same situation? And then people say that that's political. It would be political to say that the one political party in this country is terrible and the other one's perfect and it never does anything wrong. Now that would be political. But at the same time, folks, pointing out hypocritical statements and showing that there's not even a logical framework to any of the statements, it's just whatever is the most convenient for the situation, that's not political. Like we would do that. We've done that on anyone. This kind of stuff is ridiculous. It's like there has to be an approach taken one way or the other. The honest approach is that that's none of our business. It doesn't matter if anyone has allegations of corruption against them. We're not married to these people. Like, we're not married to Netanyahu. We don't have a ring on the U.S. government's finger with Netanyahu. If he disappears one day and they put him in prison in Israel and a new leader takes his place in the country, so what? It is what it is. That's none of our business, no matter what happens. With the Ukrainians, it's none of our business as well. If they end up having a corruption of allegation against someone, and then they put that guy in prison, or they don't, oh well, that was none of our business. I mean, we aren't Ukrainians, we aren't in Ukraine. Our concerns with them is a business concern on beating the Russians. Everything else that happens internally in their country is really none of our business. But anyways, we also heard that now there is no deadline for a peace between Russia and Ukraine, according to the president. So now we're back to the indefinite timeline of eventually this war will end. So,
we're still on the worst timeline, even though it's indefinite. It's still the worst timeline ever.
Well, I mean, kind of. And also, Witkoff is going to be arriving in Moscow tomorrow. He's already on a plane over there at the moment, so that way he can go there and talk to Putin. Or more so, Putin will talk to him, and he'll just take whatever Putin says and come back with it and treat it like the gospel, one or the other. So that's generally what we have going on at the moment. At least with the ongoing negotiations about a possible peace, but it doesn't really look like that's going to be going anywhere. Still, a lot of people are talking about what the Russians are about to be doing tomorrow when Witkoff gets there and presents the proposal. And Matthew, what are people thinking about that, and what are you thinking about that as well?
Okay, so we did hear that at least from the Ukrainian side and actually the U.S. side, that the negotiations in Miami actually went pretty good, but we don't know any details about it. The U.S. did say there's a lot more stuff to iron out, which basically means there's a lot of basically loose ends that are still happening right now. So it doesn't sound like Ukraine's giving in necessarily, but they are sort of playing the game, I guess you could say. And right now, Witkoff will be visiting Moscow between December 4th and 5th and speaking to Putin and presenting whatever was discussed in Miami that they're keeping secret. So what happens now? 65% said Russia will reject any type of deal, while 23% said Russia will use this to stall using this new deal, and 6% said Ukraine has probably decided to give in and just give up. So one thing, here's a couple of things that can't change. Russia can't just end the war because they have a war economy, and if they basically disrupt that, they're going to destroy their country economically quicker than it would have gone otherwise. So Putin can't end the war for that reason. Also, Zelensky can't simply give up because the Constitution of Ukraine says he can't just give away land. And also, if he did that, he would likely be very, very in very foul shape from the Ukrainian people. So neither one of the leaders really have any wiggle room in reality to end the thing. And Zelensky definitely can't end the thing because his country is still being invaded and Russia's still going to the depths of hell to get it. So I would say that Russia is likely going to use this deal to stall and they're going to play along, but don't expect anything crazy to happen. They're probably going to reject it outright in the next couple of days. That's my hunch. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to say they're going to just reject it all, no matter what it is. Even if it is amenable to the Russians are still going to want more than what will be given to them in a treaty, so they're just going to keep fighting until they achieve that eventually, truth be told. So that would be my opinion of it. I don't really think there's going to be much coming of it, to be entirely honest. And so with that, I hope that does address it the best I can. And I also saw someone in the chat say, we only started helping out Ukraine after the last president got in power. I don't know if you were paying attention most of the past 15 years, but we started helping Ukraine out as soon as they got invaded originally in 2014. It's actually the current sitting president right now that provided the first arms support to Ukraine in 2016 when we gave them Humvee cars, basically, equipped with TOW-2B anti-tank guided missile launchers. So really hard to say that it's due to like I got to say the whole thing with like the whole like the Biden conspiracy, like that is goofy, because if you ever look at the actual historical support we've given to Ukraine, the current president supported them. The president before him from 2012 to 2016 supported Ukraine in the 2 years he could. Then the last president did. And then now we've completely flipped that on its head currently for no reason, which I don't really get. But that's how it was. Like it's like anything else is just raw propaganda. And if you don't believe me, you can go pull up the news articles from 2016 and 2018 when the current U.S. president in his first term was providing support to him in hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's how it worked back then. That's how it's been working up until very recently, just over this past 11 months or so. But anyways, moving on from that and on into Russia, because it's time for us to finally get to the Ukraine war news, we have a decent amount to cover. First off, we finally got to see satellite photography of the testing site for Yasny. Take a look. There's a fire truck, some murals, military trucks. This is the silo and the launch site. This is the area where the missile cratered, and this is the burned out area.
Oh wow, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I like that.
Truly incredible, boy. Also, by the way, just to give you all a perspective on this missile silo that y'all saw in the first picture is that tiny little pixel right down here where my mouse cursor is circling, just to give you all an idea of the burn area from the explosion. It practically burned about a quarter of the entire Yasny testing range, actually, after it exploded. Then we also saw another debris crater. This apparently was from the Avangard glide vehicle when it impacted, which it didn't explode, it just impacted as a large solid mass, and apparently also created a significant crater. This crater is actually visible down here in the bottom right of the larger wide-angle picture that we have here. Then we also saw in the fourth picture loads of additional military and support trucks that were out here after the explosion occurred, either trying to piece together why the missile failed or just trying to clean it up. So clearly showing a significant failure at the Yasny testing range. Meanwhile, we also saw in the area of the Volga River some Ukrainian drones involved in the drone attack currently flying on deep into the country. That's actually an A-22 Foxbat, so that one's carrying about a 500-kilogram bomb inside of it, so about 1,000 pounds, and it's well on into Russia at this point. It was in the Tatarstan region, or Kazan region of Russia, at the time that picture was taken. Speaking of drone attacks, there is another big one going on right now throughout multiple areas of the Russian Federation, as you can see through here, and we were able to confirm that some of those drones did make impact with the Afipsky refinery in the Krasnodar Cryo Oblast overnight. The fire here clearly indicating the refinery was hit.
Pista. It's so bad. Look, orange fire. Oh. Oh. What the hell is that?
Man, she's shivering. Like, she cold. But she needs to get close to that fire warm. She get a little warm. But anyways, moving on out of the Krasnodar area. It's now time for us to move on up to Moscow, because we just heard, folks, that the presidential decree has come down from Putin. He's finally approved the new military budget for Russia, and Russia's winning the war seamlessly, everyone. That's what Russia says. They are hardly breaking a sweat in this special military operation. So the military budget was, of course, normal. It was somewhere around 50 to 60 $100 billion. They actually approved the presidential decree, and the military budget for the next year, at a minimum, is going to at least be $166 billion.
That is insane. I wonder what they've cut. They've had to take money from somewhere to add this to the military budget, because it's over a third of their entire national budget now going to the military. So I wonder what they've actually cut, because they're keeping that part kind of secret. Like, we hear bits and pieces of what they've cut, like, over time, but they're keeping it kind of, oh my God, look at that. Nicholas Condor is throwing a 250 Canadian, and also Anonymous is throwing in crazy money right now. Look at that. We are about $250 to the goal right now. Look at that. That is crazy work.
Holy moly, Nicholas Condor. throwing in a humongous amount of support. We might not even have to call a general order, folks. We might be able to get by without one tonight. We are $250 away from the fundraiser goal. Can we do it? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We're very close now. But I got to say, humongous shout out to Nicholas Condor. I think that is one of the biggest supports, donations of the night to the fundraiser. Truly unbelievable. Truly incredible. And that actually is about as large as the Russian military budget for the next year. But like $166 billion. That's a lot of money. You know how much money that is, folks. Let me go show y'all the military budget of Russia per year. Let me go show it to y'all. Let me show it to you. Let me show it to you. All right. This is the Russian military budget per year in terms of military expenditure. So, all of the blue ones are the U.S. and NATO. So we make up practically 2/3 of all military spending in the world as NATO, including the United States. So, if you look at the Russians, when they collapsed, the largest military spending that they had was about $20 billion a year on average. It actually got pretty big on after the annexation of Crimea. That's when it got up to about $50 billion. But in 2023, their military spending budget was about $126 billion in total because they went over their initial decreed budget and accrued a great additional deal of expense. With that in mind, the Russians are quite literally digging themselves a hole funding-wise. This is 1/3 of the entire budget that is in military spending. The U.S. would have never heard of such a thing. Never. I believe military spending here in the U.S. is something like 17 to 20% of the U.S.'s annual budget, and that's in discretionary spending, also including the non-discretionary spending. It's not a great deal. The Russians are spending 33% of their whole budget as a nation on the military now. So it's looking like it's going to be pretty rough for them. Not really thinking they're going to be making it that much longer, to be entirely honest with y'all. I mean, it's a little bit tough for them, it's a little bit tough.
Also, we're only $50 from the goal, by the way. Literally $50 away right this second.
Holy moly, $50?
50 smackaroos, but to a Ruski, that could be a whole month's salary, or to a Venezuelan, that could be a year's worth of salary right there, depending on who you're asking. So that's $50 away from the goal right now.
That's a spicy meatball, and we are getting really close. We are getting really close, I'd say, to that goal, and Russia's getting really close to bankruptcy at the same time. So moving on out of Russia's governmental news, it's time for us to finally hit the front in Ukraine. Moving us on down into the location unknowns, we got the casualty report for the day. No Bobcats, unfortunately, but Ms. Disa, keeper of the records, did state that 508 drones. It's the eighth.
We hit the goal! Let's go! We hit the goal! Jack, look, we smashed the goal! Oh, Jack, whoa! They said, whoa, they're banging those straight razors. They hit the goal! Oh, my God!
Oh, they hit that goal harder than Corn Pop hit that dude down at the pool. And that was a real big hit. Anyway, we hit the goal! That's absolutely incredible. Look, are you okay? Are you all right? Did you support the fund? Are you good? Do you need to go? Anyway, you gotta ask if the fundraiser is funding enough, or if we gotta stack spaghetti at the spaghetti stove. But beyond that, all jokes aside, an unbelievable and amazing thing. We didn't have to call a general order, and the fundraiser was battling to get to the goal tonight. But nearly 2 hours into the show, we hit the $2.5 thousand goal, and we're well beyond now. We're almost to 2.7. Holy moly! Truly an incredible and amazing sort of a thing. I got to give a huge shout out to the whole of the Lee Spring Army, the entirety of it, for getting this to the goal and beyond it. Y'all are absolutely incredible folks and helping to save lives in Ukraine every single day. It's a very big thing that y'all should all be proud of. So a big congratulations to all of y'all so much once again. And of course, long live the Lee Spring Army, and the Lee Spring Army will never die. And so, getting back to the casualty report, we were able to hear that November 3rd is the highest month at 9,496 for drones. Other totals include 30,030 troops, 76 tanks, 153 AFVs, 612 artillery pieces, 19 MLRSs, 20 anti-aircraft warfare systems, 2 planes, 1 helicopter, 107 cruise missiles, 2,401 vehicles, and 24 Bobcat skid steers over the course of the whole month. So a pretty good month overall, to be entirely honest with y'all, for the armed forces of Ukraine. And going over the casualty report for the day, we were able to see that 1,160 Russian soldiers were wounded and killed, along with 14 APCs, 49 supply trucks, 5 main battle tanks, 7 artillery pieces, 508 drones, 2 MLRSs, 29 cruise missiles, and that was all. But it was still quite a good day. Moving us on into the front, we actually don't have a lot of frontline footage today, to be entirely honest with y'all. We only have this one clip from Zaporizhia, and it was showing the 422nd Battalion of the Luftwaffe, which certainly doesn't have any questionable imagery about their unit at all, hitting Russian forces within the Zaporizhia region. So let's take a look. Man, they got a whole intro and everything. As Hal Rose threw it at 333. Man, snake my life.
Let's go, Hal. Let's go, Hal. I'm sorry, Hal. I got a little distracted there for a minute. I was like, whoa, like a flashbang right there.
Man, I'm not gonna lie, man. Dude, whenever Ukrainian units are out there on the front line, they're like, hey, let's sing a song to pass the time. And it's usually like a Ukrainian, like a Cossack song or one from their tradition. The Luftwaffe unit, they'd be like, hey, let's sing a song. Aufstehen. It's like, hey, whoa. It's like, wow, Jack. Wow. It's like, what the hell? I gotta be honest with y'all. I still gotta say this because we've been saying this the whole war. The Luftwaffe unit's gotta change its name and it's gotta change the imagery with it. I mean, it's really hard for this unit to beat the Nazi allegations when their imagery is very close to that. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, it is. Trust me. The modern German Luftwaffe does not use that font. That's like the font you would find on the Bismarck back in World War II. Not a good look. But they did do good work on the front today. It's just that their imagery is extremely questionable. Well, we can see them flying around a Russian Hedgehog. The Iron Cross visible at the lower part of the screen, really finishing off the vibe here.
Man, I'll tell you what, they're going in here, getting these hedgehogs. No hedgehog made it out of this barn right here and got to walk away and tell the other hedgehogs about the story.
Man, we can see them flying in and trying to get another hedgehog here. Oh, the hedgehog is actually cooking up nice.
Also, by the way, we're at 3,000 raised right now. Like, let me go check that. Yeah, Hal Rose was one that got us up to that. That's crazy work. That's crazy.
Oh my god, a BMP3. These are very rare. They're about to lose it too.
Whoa, it's like purple. Look at this.
Whoa, I think they hit him with the purple. Whoa, they hit him with the lead.
Whoa, I mean, don't call him a Chernobyl man, but looks like they got some energy generation going on from these spicy rocks. Whoa.
Whoa, I mean, don't call it uranium, but I'm tasting metal. Whoa. Oh, that's the end
I
of the
mean,
clip.
they didn't say he was a rocket man, but rumor has it he went to Uranus. The planet.
I mean,
had to add in the planet there because that came out a little bit whack.
Talk about a sus statement. I mean,
I mean, say it's a bit of a slip up, but that was a little out there.
I mean, the Marines are kind of going down the hill, making statements like that. But anyways, moving on from that and on over to Novoshitinsk, we did get to see the Ukrainians slamming the entirety of the Rostov Oblast overnight.
Короче, братан, смотри.
Bro, who the hell was that? Swedish chef? Oh, bro, like...
Man, go back. I need to see that again, hear that again. Man, he had like sympathetic, like pain from that. It wasn't even near him. It was off in the distance. He felt it in his soul. He said, "Oh,
bro!" The explosion went boom, and then 5 seconds later, oh, bro! It's like, yo, you good? It's like...
Нихуя себе.
Next clip. Извини, говорит радио Москва. И
в ближайшем здании, заглубленном помещении или складках
I know what he's saying. I know what he's saying. I don't know a whole bunch of that language, but I do know a little bit. I think he said, make sure you eat chili bowl.
Man, he's going around. Make sure to hide from chili bowl. Man, you make sure to stay alive and stay away from chili bowl. If anyone offers you chili bowl, go hide in your house immediately.
I hate those like vans that they send running around. Like in all seriousness, like that's so like Russian Soviet like type stuff to send a van around with a loudspeaker like that. It just sounds so ominous and like dystopian.
Man, honestly, man, I would love if one of them went around here, man, like here in America, and it just had something on it like, do you have papers? Are you a citizen? Like, you know, it's like, bro, honestly, I could kind of laugh out of that at that point because that would just be comical at that point. But they do that in Russia, unironically, crazily enough. I think they're one of the few countries that does that. Bro, this guy's living in the damn Bastille. He's just looking out of his little dungeon window up there. He's like, what is that outside I hear? Perchance is it in a dog? I think we're about to find out.
Oh, these pesky mosquitoes. What, he just hock a loogie?
Bro, he said, man, these shit.
Really? That was nasty, whatever that was.
Да, кружит здесь, пидорас. Вон, понеслась.
Oh my god!
Well, he's all trembly.
Oh
You heard him. He's all trembly. He said, "What is that?" Go back and listen.
Bro, he sat there, man, at the beginning of the video, heard the drone fly over. Damn drones. And then he got up and started walking, and then he saw the anti-aircraft fire open up right in front of him. He went, oh, bro.
He started trembling.
Bro, let's listen to him.
Вон, понеслась.
Bro, he tried to play like a badass at the start. He said, damn drones. I hate them. And they got up and saw the machine guns open up. He went, oh. Also, I love this dude. Like, look, apparently he's looking out into the distance. Like, he's not in a building that's just a wide open side of the wall there. So he's walking up, and it's like a video game cutscene. It activates as soon as he gets up and walks close enough. Every gun off in the distance opens up simultaneously. Look at this.
Здесь, пидорас.
No anti-aircraft fire yet. And then as soon as he gets close enough,
Вон,
literally every damn machine gun starts firing simultaneously.
понеслась.
Oh my god.
Did he just say slut?
What?
Did he just say slut? But did you hear that? Like, go back for a second. He said like an English word in the middle of that.
But man, by the way, I don't think we can get that far on YouTube, by the way, saying that like out loud. But
Понеслась.
Yeah, he said it.
I mean, I mean, we can't say it, but he can.
Понеслась, жара.
He said it again. And here comes another.
Давайте, пацанята, отрабатывайте.
This foul mouth. He's gonna come back with a nasty one.
Эй, езжай домой, блядь.
Bro, the car jump scared him. He said it's a car, man. Bro, look at the cameraman. Even the cameraman, like he got startled by the car.
Отрабатывайте. Эй, езжай домой.
He said, "Get out of here, you bastard!"
He said, Ian, shit, Des Moines, please.
Блядь.
These damn cars have the audacity to go down the street. Look at him.
Иди куртку одел
He's
ты.
breathing hard too. Oh, bro, nasty,
Man,
bro.
he said that car kind of jump scared me. I'm like,
This guy is disgusting. That is nasty as hell. Oh my
Оттуда
god.
начинают сильно поливать, пацаны, отрабатывают. Молодцы. Он кружит, видишь, кружит и кружит.
he did it again.
Oh
He did.
my gosh, this guy's disgusting right here, man. Disgusting.
What the hell, bro?
The hellscape just opened up.
Did we just enter the Siren Head like creepypasta world right here? Oh my god, ARP
Holy
Bob just threw in
moly.
a $500 donation to the fundraiser. Holy smokes. We're up
Damn.
to 3.6.
That's crazy work. I honestly was wondering for a minute if we were going to hit the goal, but now we're like smashing the goal like double time. Look at that.
Man, double time smashing. That's honestly incredible. And I got to say, ARP Bob, a humongous shout out to you for throwing in the largest donation to the fundraiser of the night so far. Absolutely incredible work right there. And according to ARP Bob, he said that's just light work. And I got to say, a huge shout out to you, by the way, for that. That's incredible. But let's get back to this horrific world that this guy is filming in. It's apparently not ours. It's a pocket dimension to hell, but let's take a listen to it.
I have chicken sandwich.
One. Bro, this guy's going, attention.
Attention, attention. Get a great rate when you go online. Go to
Man.
My milkshakes bring other boys to the yard.
Man, dude, that's the airport announcement speakers right there.
Excuse me, we have an airline flight line when it's now changed over.
Thank you. And that's like the airport announcements every single time.
Yeah, it's got mumbling. Whoa, oh. What is that? Ominous sound.
Oh, I think the avant-garde just got fired off in the town. Ryan's sitting there saying,
attention, attention, attention. We're about to be literally blowing up the whole city. Like, get ready. Pray to your gods or whoever you believe in and hold to your loved ones close. It is coming, bleed.
also, why is the nuclear siren also going off in the city as well, dude? Like,
Oh my god.
oh, it's an SU-30 or something.
That is like that. I'm honestly very ominous with that like audio going in the background. Sounds like they're about to get nuked.
Honestly, man.
Welcome to McDonald's. How may I take your order? Would you like a Big Mac or chicken nuggets, please? Attention, attention, you're about to die. Make sure to order your fast food quickly.
Oh, what the bro?
Oh
he
yeah,
did-
yeah.
he
What
said,
da.
Bro, he said, what the bro? Look, I've been doing that the whole war as a meme. This guy at the end of the clip literally went, oh, what the man, no way. Anyways, that was most of the stuff that happened around Novoshatinsk. By the way, all those clips came from Shakhty and Novoshatinsk, by the way, just to clarify where those were from. We also saw that down at Taganrog, they got hit again for like the third night in a row.
туда, ой, блядь.
Once again, like a nuclear-style explosion on the Beriev plant.
Не снимай туда, ой, блядь.
Oh. Oh, bitch.
Man.
Hey, look down the way, girl. They just hit that place extra hard.
Dude, next thing you know, the guy's gonna come by in the ice cream van.
Attention, attention. There is an explosion that has happened on your street.
It's like, oh man, I wouldn't have known. Thank you, announcer man, for coming around and letting us know.
You gotta love Russia. The ice cream salesman Moonlight is an official announcers for Putin's regime.
Man.
In the name of Российской Федерации, из нами, намани, говорит Москва.
The people in the town are like, Vadim, is that you? What are you doing in that ice cream truck this late at night spewing party slogans? He said, look, I'm on that grind. I'm on that hustle. You know, you got to find every way to monetize, okay? You got to go and, you know, you hit hard times. One day you're selling some Mayfair chocolates and some ice cream. The next day you're spewing the party slogans. It's hard times.
Yeah, bro, and then in the middle of the party slogans,
This is brought to you by CoinStop.
bro, something like that.
Oh, Vadim, he is on that grind. He's on that grind.
Man, he is trying to get those payments. Also, the Akhmat, which is hiding out in Berdyansk these days, got obliterated by the Ukrainian Special Forces when they were trying to conduct a transaction for fuel. This clip shows what followed. You can see the Akhmat Buhanka here. You can also see the fuel trucks that are about to give them the fuel. And you can now see that they're getting obliterated in the trees by the Ukrainian drones.
Also, by the way, I like the way they worded it in the post. They said a Katarov or like Katavarite fuel deal gone wrong. It's like they're selling crack or something out here. It's like, has the fuel gotten that scarce that they're acting like it's like selling drugs or something now? It's like, oh, the fuel deal gone wrong on the side of the road.
Man, Ahmad got out. Do you have the good gas, inshallah? Right, yes, we have the finest.
And then they got hit by the Ukrainians. They got jumped. Fred Flushenbob said, sounds kind of like the adults on Charlie Brown. Honestly, it does. You know, like the little radio announcer guy in the truck really does sound like that. Well, the Ukrainian Special Forces still obliterated the Katarovites. Went wrong pretty badly. And I think that they learned their lesson not to buy shady fuel from shady fuel trucks in Bryansk. Moving on from that, it's now time for us to round out the news completely. That's right, everyone. We just made it to the end. There's no speech from Zelensky today. He was apparently busy doing something else. I am currently trying to deal with the hypocrisy of everyone acting like this one guy with corruption allegations is destroying the whole country. So I was a little busy with that today, and so I couldn't do a speech. But nevertheless, I hope you all enjoyed the news nonetheless. We always put a great deal of effort and time into it. And like the bad streets of Kriviri, we always hope you all come back. I don't know how to really round that out. But beyond that, it is time for us to move on into the second segment of this stream, where we get to talk to all of y'all. And it is always an incredibly fun time to talk to you. And so, with that, what do we have, Matthew?
All right, so jumping into our final question segment of the night. First of all, let's give a huge shout out to the donors so far tonight. Everybody has helped us to reach $3,574 raised, which is over 1,000 above the original goal. So the fundraiser is doing fantastic, and a huge shout out to everybody tonight, big or small donations, for throwing in any amount, because of course it's going to a really good charity, which is Nova Ukraine, and we've done a ton of fundraisers for them because they do really good work. So another big night of fundraising, but also, by the way, we do have some more top donors, and we did have that 500 from ARP Bob that came in a short while back, which is the biggest one of the night, by the way, and a huge shout out to ARP Bob for that massive generosity. Also, a big shout out to Hal Rose for throwing in a 333, also massive, and a 250 from Nicholas Condor, as well as a 100 from Chef Danny B, as well as a 50 from John Person, as well as a 50 from Bobo Uzala and Greenskin as well. And also, Measureman and Chef Danny B threw in another $50 donation to the fundraiser. So, fantastic work tonight. Once again, a huge shout out to everybody for making that possible yet again. But Enforcer, what say you?
I have to say that we are greatly appreciative of everyone supporting the fundraiser. Nova Ukraini is an amazing fundraiser, and all of y'all are continuing to help out the ongoing war in Ukraine and the Ukrainian government focusing less on the humanitarian side and more on the war side. Through that, we are able to hopefully end the war quicker with a Ukrainian victory. And so I thank you all greatly. Y'all are helping us to continue to support the people that we talk about on the news every night. And we are greatly appreciative of y'all giving us the opportunity to do such a thing.
And all jokes aside, a humongous thanks to y'all once again, because it is truly an incredible and wonderful thing to know that the Lee Spring Army is still continuing to support Western and American interests around the globe. Whether or not there's any issues or holdups with that anywhere else, the Lee Spring Army marches forward like it always has every single day of the year, pretty much. And so a huge thanks to y'all so much once again. And with that, it's time for us to get on into the questions.
All right, so jumping into our questions, by the way, we are jumping straight into two remaining super chats that we've gotten tonight, and this one goes to Chef Danny B, and Chef Danny put in a $20 donation as well, and thank you very much, Danny, for once again throwing in support of the fundraiser and support of the channel as well. And he said, good evening, Enforcers, Chef Danny, and wanted to show y'all some love too, and LLT, LSA.
And a big thanks to you, a humongous thanks to you, Chef Danny B of the LSA, for supporting the channel tonight. Nobody has to. We actually expect to not make anything on Sunday nights at all. But we're always happy to know that people enjoy the channel so much that even on Sunday nights, they would still want to support the channel and help us to be able to put that towards the living fund to make it all possible. So a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and also we had a super chat from Craig Jones as well. He threw in a 20, but without a comment though. But thank you very much, Craig, for also supporting the channel, and we do appreciate that. But Enforcer, what say you?
And a big thanks to you for the support. You didn't throw in a comment, or still greatly appreciative. And I got to thank you massively for helping this channel to keep on running. And I also got to say, folks, I've got to break here for a second from our super chats because I've seen a lot of people talk about this, and I wanted to make sure that we delivered. A lot of people have been talking about the fact that here in Salt Lake City, it got its first day of snow out of the whole year right now, which is unheard of in Alabama, by the way. It never snows in Alabama in November. It's usually like January or February. If we ever see snow, it's around then. So, suffice it to say, we are definitely going to be having a winter here, and it did snow today. 1 inch of snow, which for some people is quite a big deal, especially people in the South. They'd probably be killing each other right now because of their bad driving, because of 1 inch of snow. Here in Salt Lake, it seems as though a lot of people are more so familiar with driving in snow, considering that's a common issue throughout most of the year, considering the winters are longer and a lot more harsh. Actually, they just exist, as a matter of fact, here. It seems like they're a little bit more familiar with that. I don't know that myself yet, because this is Sunday. And one thing that is very bizarre about Salt Lake City is that it's like America, how it used to be when I was a kid, or at least how the South used to be when I was a kid, which is everything is closed on Sunday. There's basically nothing open here on Sunday. Really wild to see that.
Yeah, it's dead. It's dead on Sundays. Like, it's completely, like, it's really weird. Like, the entire city basically shuts down. There will be cars out, like, on the streets, but nothing's open pretty much anywhere. But it's all over the place.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, our childhood town that we grew up in Alabama was the town of Montgomery. And when we were little kids, the town of Montgomery would shut down on Sundays. Pretty much all the stores would. And as we grew up, about the time that we were we were just about to become teenagers, that was really when everything started to stay open 7 days a week, and most everything was open on Sundays anyways. But when we were really little kids, most everything was still closed on Sundays. Most of the country is like that these days, where stuff is open 7 days a week. But out here in Salt Lake City, they actually close it on Sundays, which is quite odd, really a culture shock, honestly, because for Matthew and me, Saturday and Sunday are kind of the days that we would go out and do stuff in the South. And then Mondays were really when we would go do everything because we didn't have a show to run that night. Here in Salt Lake City, we can kind of do a little bit on Saturday, but it's usually jam-packed everywhere on Saturdays. Or we could do a whole lot on Monday, which is, of course, the day we have off. So really sort of an interesting thing with that. But nobody was really out today to see how well they drive in the snow. But Matthew did get out today. I didn't. I pretty much stayed in. But Matthew did get out, and he did take some pictures of all of the snow around here. It wasn't a lot. It was like a little frosting of snow, honestly, that happened. But Matthew, do you have those pictures on Discord for us to show?
Yeah, I just sent you 3 of them. I can't show all of them, sadly, because some of them do violate my OPSEC a little bit, so I can't show all of them. But the ones that I can show, I got 3 of them here. I actually drove downtown because I was curious to see what downtown looked like after it snowed. So got a picture of the Capitol building right here from the side. Got some snow a little bit on the ground there. Not a whole bunch of it, but you got some there you can kind of see. And then also got a picture of just a really nice street. I think it was State Street, actually, the main street going straight to the Capitol building. It just looked nice, so I took a picture of it. So that was that. And then also the main picture is a snowy picture of the mountains right here. You can actually see all the mountains and stuff with snow all over them. That was actually the road leading up to Immigration Canyon right here. I was not brave enough to actually go up there. I'm not even sure if it was open. Literally nobody was driving off of Immigration Canyon, but it was really cool out there. But I was like, I don't want to like go up there and risk it because I don't know the roads that well, and also I don't want to slide off a mountain or something like that and end up getting, paralyzed or something. So I didn't do it, but this was the entrance to it. It looked really nice snow up the mountains and stuff like that. Very nice.
Yeah, I would have to say, that is really cool looking, actually. It looks really neat. I kind of wish I had gotten out today, but snow is going to become a very common facet of life around here very soon. So, you can get out really any day in the winter and probably see this. And I can't wait to see, once the clouds clear, Matthew, what the larger mountains look like Lone Peak and the Twin Peaks in general. I can't wait to see what those look like, because I bet you those are going to look absolutely wild, covered in snow. Because what's very cool, folks, about this area is that the mountains here on the eastern side of the city are exceptionally tall, especially for us coming from the south. They get up to like 11 and 12,000 feet down here on the eastern side, and especially these, the Lone Peak and also Old Sullivan Peak, which are pretty much visible from the entirety of the city. So I know we can talk about that without it being an OPSEC issue, because you can literally see these mountains from everywhere. So what's really cool is that the last time it came through here and rained in the city, when it was raining in the city, it was actually snowing in the mountains because of the altitude difference and the temperature difference. As a result, it was cold enough up there that it actually snowed instead. And it looks like a winter wonderland. We drove up there and it was crazy to look at it in that sort of state. So I'm assuming that it probably snowed quite heavily, considering that it was cold enough in the city for it to snow about an inch. I bet it was probably inches of snow way on up there in the mountains at the same time. So once the clouds clear here, we'll probably be able to get a little bit of a better look at the mountains and what they look like covered in snow. So that'll be really cool.
Also, by the way, I do have one more picture for you to show. I was trying to scroll through here, make sure there's nothing OPSEC related with it. But you can see one more picture here. It's from the interstate. I can't remember the name of the interstate, but it's the one that goes around the perimeter of southern downtown Salt Lake City. And it goes down toward the lower part. You can see here, like from this interstate, that it looks very, very nice out here. Very snowy and stuff like that. Very beautiful. Honestly, it's beautiful out here when it snows. I just wonder how it gets when it really starts snowing, like when it really like piles it up, like, like a couple of feet or something like that. Well, I haven't seen that yet, but at least for now, it's manageable with the about inch they got.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really cool looking thing with the snow out around here. I was just like, wow, that is so neat. That is so cool. And it's going to be really crazy when it actually gets like several inches of snow, which I hear is fairly common around here. So I'm going to be interested to see what that looks like, because I've never seen several inches of snow. I also saw someone say, oh, by the way, there's mountains in Alabama. Technically, yes, but not really. I'd say they're more so hills, because the tallest mountain in Alabama is Mount Cheahaw at 1,700 feet above sea level, and from base to peak, it's only about 1,000 feet, which technically, I mean, you could call that a mountain, but I think it's more so of a hill, because I think in most areas of the world, that would probably be more so described as a hill than a mountain. But let me see if I can go and show it to y'all here. It's in the Talladega National Forest. Oh, here we are, Cheahaw Mountain. This is it right here. It is such a small mountain, if you want to call it that you can literally just drive straight up to the peak. So I'll show you all what it looks like here, or at least kind of what the mountain looks like. This is it. This is the highest point in the state of Alabama. It looks nice. I mean, like, it actually does look nice. I will give it that. But I just don't really think it's a mountain in my description of a mountain, like a mountain to me has to be several thousand feet from base to peak, and this is only 1,000. So it's more so of like a really tall hill. It's pretty much like the point in between a hill and getting towards a mountain, but still a hill to me. Now the mountains out here are true mountains, and also my idea of a mountain is like the taller ones, like the ones that are 7,000 feet in the Appalachians or higher. That's me as a mountain. These are more so foothills, in my opinion. But also, the thing is out here is that the mountains are actually so jagged and so sharp, at least in terms of their altitude gain, that they're actually usually stone capped. And let me see if I can show y'all the Lone Peak. I'll just show y'all pictures of it. This is what I think of mountains, is a mountain that is so tall and also jagged enough that, one, it gets an alpine environment or a biome towards to the peak, which these mountains do, and also they're jagged enough and generally prominent enough that there's visible stone on large parts of the mountain face. That to me is a mountain. The Alabama mountains are more so hills, at least what I would think are hills. But still, I mean,
they call them the Beverly Hillbillies. That's what they call them.
The next thing you know, Jay, what is a millionaire? Yeah, oh, man. But honestly, really, I would agree with that as well, in my personal assessment. But I could be wrong. A lot of people might want to say Alabama has mountains. I just don't really think so. Also, oh my goodness, Matthew, oh my goodness, I just realized something, man. When we were driving around like that Green River area, and when you look off in the distance and be like, wow, look at those mountains. Apparently that was like King's Peak and stuff. I didn't know that, but I remember looking at those mountains the whole time we were driving, and I was like, wow, what in the world are those? Let me see if I can show them to y'all from the interstate here. They're off in the distance out. Actually, I think that's the wrong way. Yeah, there they are. They're off in the distance. And when we were driving out here, that whole range was actually covered in snow, which was really wild. Let me see if I can get a little bit further down here. I think you might be able to see it better from down here on Interstate 80. Let's take a little chance. Take a chance on me. Yeah, you can see them a little bit better out there, kind of. But those were really crazy looking, especially from afar. You could see them forever away, all the way from like
Yeah.
Green River and stuff.
You know, Wyoming's really a lot like Nevada, if you really think about it. Like, there's barely anything in Wyoming, like literally barely anything. Like, even the mountains are like mainly like over the state line in Utah, and all the stuff that there's is like population centers are pretty much in Utah, right there with Salt Lake City, Ogden, and Logan, and all those places like that, all the way down to Provo. Wyoming was like empty, like the whole thing was empty. Like, there was obviously along the interstate some places, but that state is just literally still the wild frontier.
Yeah, and the people there, folks, like the people who live in Wyoming, they look like rough and tumble home kind of folks. Like they're actually roughing it out there, and they are. I mean, there's not really a lot of amenities or any sort of facet of modern life out there. So a lot of those people are roughing it out like they are still living on the frontier nearly, at least compared to all of us out here in the rest of the country, which is really crazy when you look at it. And I saw someone say, you know, the Appalachians to me are more livable. Oh, definitely, because you can actually travel through the Appalachians in most places. These Rocky Mountains, you pretty much just have to drive around them because they're usually so tall. But that's something that is a little bit interesting about the difference in the mountains. One thing that's crazy, though, is that the Appalachians were always considered hick and hillbilly and backwards, and they were, because it was very difficult throughout most of history up until recently to get anything up in the mountains. It was very expensive and difficult, and there wasn't an easy way to truck stuff or railroad it up into the mountains. So usually the Appalachians were a good bit backwards compared to most of America, pretty much up until about the 80s and the 90s. That's really when they finally started to get more modernized, because it started to get a little bit easier to ship stuff up in there. And even still, it's kind of like quality of life and technologically, a lot of the Appalachian areas are still a good bit behind America, but they aren't to the point where they have no plumbing or, you know, an internal or a household toilet or anything like that. They do have that nowadays, but up until like the 80s and the 90s, that was actually a little bit more far-flung, at least as a possibility to see something like that in the Appalachians. Out here in the Rockies, you literally just can't live in them because most of them are a part of a national forest or a national park. So that's also a little bit neat. And also what's even crazier is that there's more national forests out here than there are national parks. Like the Teton Peaks, I believe, actually the Grand Teton is a national park, but the Bridger Teton National Forest is a national forest that is surrounding it, but has very similar mountains in them. Man, that's honestly beautiful right there. I mean, look at that.
That is a nice view right there, isn't it?
Oh, yes, indeed. I mean, dang, look at that. That is, man, honestly, man, I like to drive up there and see that myself. We only saw it once in our lives, but I like to see it again, because the Tetons are crazy. I actually saw some people try and climb this thing. I would never climb that. Like, that is a death trap. It looks like you could easily slip and fall and kill your, get taken out, really, because it is just dangerous. I mean, like the straight jagged peak that you see right there, you have to pretty much rock climb up that, and I'm not good with grip. Like, I can't grip on stuff well or for long, so I would fall right off of that if I tried to climb the Grand Teton. Cool to look
well,
at.
you know something that's fascinating. You were talking about like the land and stuff a minute ago. You know, there is a state, and it's not the one you might think. It's not what you think. But it turns out there is a state that's basically owned by the feds. And I know which one you're about to say, but it's not the one you're thinking. But which state is it? The federal government owns about 87% of the land
Nevada.
in one state out there. Are you going to say Nevada?
I'm very sure it's Nevada.
Okay, you're going to stick with the answer?
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. I was trying to trip you up, but Nevada apparently 87% of the state is apparently owned by the federal government. Some of it is the Bureau of Land Management that has it. There's obviously a lot of national security sites in Nevada too. A lot of military testing goes on out there. So then Nevada is basically a Fed state if you really think about it. Nevada has a state government, but it's mainly like operated by the feds if you really think about it.
Yeah, that's something that's actually really interesting about it. And the federal government won't give up the land either, because the state of Nevada has been involved in loads of lawsuits with the U.S. government to try and shake up some of the federal land and have it given over to the state. And they just completely refused. Sorry, I was choking on my spit there a second ago. That's why I started coughing in the first place. But they completely refused to give up the land, and the federal courts generally don't force the federal government to start chunking over land to Nevada, or really the state in general. So really weird. Let me show you all this map of federal land in USA. Let me go show you all this, because this is insane when you see it. Let me go get the big one here if I can. So this is all of the land in red is owned directly by the federal government.
Well, you know, also another big reason why the feds won't give up the land in Nevada is because a good bit of the land, especially near the national security sites, because of the nuclear testing, for example, it's been done out there. There's still a lot of radioactive contamination along some of the sites, and also they still do active testing of like aircraft and munitions out there at a lot of those sites. It's not, you know, it's still going on. So they don't want to give it up for that reason. They don't want to pay the money to reclaim the land, basically, to make sure all the contamination is removed. So they just hold the land, keep it. And also it's really good to have a huge buffer, because when you're testing things that you want to be, you know, classified and things like that, you don't want people to be able to drive right up to the base or something. You want to have a massive area that you can block people with mountains and natural barriers and things like that, so that way they can't see into the base.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm going to tell y'all something that's absolutely crazy about the state of Nevada as to how they even eked out 13% of the land to actually be controlled by the state. You see that little area up here, Matthew, in the northern part? It's like that little area of state-owned land that kind of follows in the squiggle through the state.
Yeah.
So what's really interesting about that, let me go pull this up. And let me go get this. This is actually insane, because this is the only reason the state of Nevada actually controls that. If you look at this map right here, let me get the big one. This is the Transcontinental Railroad that was built in 1869, and as a part of the deal, this was how the Central Pacific Railroad and the Union Pacific was going to kind of finance the railroad, is that the government gave them about, I think it was 15, 20, or 30 miles on both sides of the tracks of the land in every direction, and they owned it. And the railroads could sell that out to settlers who wanted to come out there and settle the land to be able to make money to pretty much pay off the construction of the railroad. So interestingly enough, the Central Pacific was way better at doing that than the Union Pacific was, and they sold off most of the land in northern Nevada around their part of the railroad to settlers and others. So that ended up becoming non-federal owned land as a result, and so when the state of Nevada was accepted into statehood, that area became a part of the state of Nevada, and still to this day is a part of is not a part of the federally owned public lands. And that's the reason why there's that giant swath through northern Nevada, and it literally follows exactly the epicenter of that area is the Transcontinental Railroad.
Oh, that's crazy. I didn't know that. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's really bizarre, because it's like, dang, you know, because you look at that and you're like, why in the world is there that strip? That's the only reason why. If it wasn't for that, all of that would also be federal land, a lot like the rest of Nevada is, except for Las Vegas. So really cool.
Also, by the way, another fascinating thing about the West out here and a lot of the Fed land, one thing that's interesting is there is one state, I'll see if you know where it is. There's the thing called the loneliest road in America. It's like the longest, like, straight shot road you've got. It's like out in the middle of the desert. It's just like black asphalt road all the way down, and it's just boring as hell, and it's literally called the loneliest road in America. Do you know which one it is, which state it's in and where it's at?
I wouldn't actually know. I'd have to declare ignorance.
So it's in Nevada. It's in Nevada. It's Route 50. You can show that on the map if you like. It's Route 50. It's considered the loneliest road in America. Understandably so. There's literally nothing out there, basically. But yeah, there it is. That's Kansas.
Oh, it must have been one of the older U.S. highways before the interstates. So if we follow that, we can make it all the way to Nevada. Like, we can eventually make it to Nevada. Let's see. No, actually, we won't be able to. Let's see. Do you know where it is in the state of Nevada? Because I can just zoom in on it and look at it.
It cuts right across the center of the state.
Right across the center of the state. Here it is. Highway 50, right here. Let's take a look. Oh, yeah.
Yep, there it is. Loneliest road in America. Honestly, there's like a road that looks similar to that back near Tooele.
I was about to say that.
Back toward that area.
Yeah, I was about to say
it sort of looks similar to it.
Man, it literally looks just like it, honestly, with like all the little tumbleweeds or the Russian thistles, and the mountains. It looks like, you know what? Let's show everyone that, because that is actually just like that road. We'll go here and show it around here. I mean, that's identical, really.
Yeah, it's pretty close to it. Also, another fun fact. I'm full of fun facts about Nevada. I got a lot of them. But if you look at Groom Lake, which is obviously Area 51, about 12 miles away from the center of Groom, there's a thing called Sedan Crater, which is apparently where a 104 kiloton nuclear test was conducted back in the 60s, and it displaced 12 million tons of Earth from that. And there it is right there, actually. You can see it, Sedan Crater. That was a 104 kiloton nuke that went off right there. Oh, they let people go up to it?
Apparently, yeah.
I didn't know they did that. That's news to me. Is it open today? Like, can you go to it right now, or have they closed it?
I would assume that it's open. You know, probably during the summer seasons. I don't even know if they have a summer season or a winter season in Nevada. I would assume it's open all the time. But I mean, it's not radioactive. You know, the radioactive half-life doesn't exist for long, and the area is mildly radioactive, but not to any extreme.
That's fascinating. It's got to have some residual radiation, like nothing crazy, but it's got to have something. But that's impressive. I would like to see that in real life, just out of curiosity. I'd like to see what a 104 kiloton can do, like in real life.
Very low and safe for visitors on monthly tours.
It's probably like some little small amount or something.
Let's see. Today the radiation levels are comparable to natural background radiation, so pretty much non-existent. Because on a nuclear explosion, radioactive half-life is only about 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks, it's almost background radiation levels. So that seems to be the case here, because you can actually see that there are thistles growing in the crater, and if the radiation was too high, the thistles would get killed off if they rolled in there, and there wouldn't be anything growing in there at all.
Interesting. Also, another fun fact about Nevada, real quick. You know, America's scariest motel is located in Nevada. Did you know that? Yeah, it's the Clown Motel on Main Street, overlooking, I think it's Tonopah Cemetery, I believe. It's allegedly the scariest motel in America, they say.
You mean Tonopah? Is it Tonopah or Tonopah?
Well, it's Tonopah. I know that's the name of the test range, but some people spell it different without the H at the end. They put like Tonopah. So I'm just saying like how it looks.
Oh, let's see. Where is the Clown Motel? Oh, it's around here somewhere. Let's see here. There's the Dream Inn Motel. There is a cemetery around here, so it ought to make it a little bit easier to find. Oh, here it is. There's the cemetery right there too. You know, folks, there was a prankster that called this place back in the day. You remember that, Matthew? We listened to the clip, and that guy was like, "Oh, listen, I don't think you're sane or anything." Then they started cussing the guy out after a while.
You know, someone from the Clown Motel says you're not sane. You know something's off.
I don't think you're okay. I think you need help. Man, that guy was like, "Oh yeah, I need help laying out my weights, pumping iron for 3 days." And that guy was like, "Get the hell off my phone." Oh man, and the little cemetery right next to it. You know, it's crazy looking at tombstones that are actually made of wood, and these are the original ones, by the way, because it's so dry and arid out here. Wood hardly ever really rots a lot. So you can pretty much put up a wooden tombstone like that, and it'll still be there for quite a while afterwards.
That is fascinating. Now you know something else that's very fascinating. One of the fastest speeds ever recorded on a road in America was actually accomplished out there in Nevada. I can't remember. It was some part of State Route 160. But there's this company. I'm not sure if many people will know about it, but it's a very interesting company. I think they're out of Czechoslovakia, I think. I can't remember exactly, but it's called Koenigsegg, and they make cars, really like high-end, like luxury cars, stuff like that. They brought out an Agera RS, which is like one of their models they make, and I think they went about like 277 miles an hour out there, like on State Route 60. I think it was like something that was like sanctioned and stuff like that. I don't think it was like just somebody jumping out there with a car going almost 300. I think it was totally sanctioned. But at least according to what I'm seeing here, it looks like they went 277 miles an hour, didn't even get a ticket, and it was part of a world record attempt by the company to set a top speed for a production car. So that's kind of fascinating.
Dang, that's crazy. 277 miles an hour. Man, imagine hitting a pothole at that speed.
Yeah, it must have been really flat. They probably surveyed it and stuff, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that would be goofy if they didn't. They'd be setting someone up for death. But you know, something very interesting, folks, actually, about the West. Not about Nevada, but out here in the Sierra Nevadas. There is actually this place called Feather River. And let me go see if I can find this for y'all here really quickly.
Also, by the way, I've committed heresy here. I said Czechoslovakia. I was getting mixed up with a different car manufacturer. Koenigsegg is out of Sweden, by the way. So I robbed Sweden of some of their credit. Sorry about that.
Oh my goodness, bro! Oh my goodness. Man.
There's another company. I think it's Rimac. I was getting them mixed up with Rimac. I think they're out of Czechoslovakia. I think. Let me go check that real quick though. Let's see here. Rimac. Let's see here. Damn, they're out of Croatia. Damn. Okay,
oh my goodness.
I'm getting them all wrong. So, okay, Rimac is Croatia, and also Koenigsegg is Sweden. So there you go. We got the record straight.
So Matthew, there's actually this really interesting place. It is wildly interesting in Northern California. And it looks like I'm close to it, but I need to go up a little bit farther to Rock Creek up here. And there's this really scenic road called the Feather River Canyon, and it's on State Route 70. But this is the road right here, and it's a very, very beautiful one, as you can see. It's got this little creek. It's a river. It's Feather River that goes through the middle of it, and it's basically like an alpine environment up here. Really crazy. And also, what's crazier, folks, because y'all know it wasn't actually about a road, is that the Feather River Canyon route of the Western Pacific and now the Union Pacific goes through here, and it's a very, very scenic route. Very, very cool looking. And it's one that I want to see personally myself one day, because it is so wild looking. It really doesn't even look like it's in America. It looks like it's practically out in the Alps, but just a crazy sort of a place. And what's really interesting, if I remember correctly, is that it was in this area somewhere. I think it's the Donner Pass, if I'm not mistaken. But they had to dig the...
Kebab?
Huh?
You said Donner, kebab?
Oh, no, not like, the Donner Pass, like the Donner Party, eating each other, like having a good time. Well, not that way, like not that way though. But the Donnet Pass, that's another place. And I forgot where the tunnel is, but it was the longest tunnel ever made in history at that time. It was like 1,022 feet long. Nowadays, that's nothing, but back then it was huge. And it was what the Central Pacific had to build to burst through the Sierra Nevadas and make it to the other side to make the Transcontinental Railroad a reality. And if they hadn't been able to dig that tunnel, the whole railroad would have never existed, because the Sierra Nevadas were impassable if it wasn't for that tunnel. So really interesting sort of a piece of history there.
Yeah, that is insane. That is insane right there. Also, two more facts, and then I'm going to be finished with Nevada. Do you know Nevada was a state where the first pair of blue jeans was created in a small shop in Reno? That was the place, apparently. That's what they say, at least. And also, the only creature that can live without drinking a single drop of water, unlike the Iranians, is the kangaroo rat found in Death Valley, Nevada. That is the only animal on the planet that does not have to drink water. It gets all of its moisture that it needs to survive from the seeds that it eats, and that's it. It doesn't have to drink water.
Bro, this little thing looks like it going, yippee! Man, like, honestly, man, like, that is a...
The Iranians are going to be coming over to say, excuse me, how do you survive with no water?
Man, bro, the Iranians look at this thing and they find inspiration. They're like, be like the kangaroo rat, inshallah. But man, well, these things are cute. Cute little fella. Look at him. Just vibing.
Crazy thing. Doesn't have to have any water. Look at him. He looks a little thirsty, though.
Dang, look at that. That thing's got some legs. Man.
Whoa. That thing is like a kangaroo. I see where it gets the name kangaroo rat.
Man, this thing is actually kind of crazy. Oh my, what? Oh my God, bro. This thing was kicking a snake in the neck, like in the throat, to get away from it.
Kung Fu rat.
Dude, this little rat means business. Brother, that thing's got some power behind it. They look cute though. I mean, actually they are really cute looking little rats, but that is kind of metal.
It looks like a Siberian hamster. It looks like a Siberian hamster with like long legs.
why are its front legs so short? Like its front little arms so short? Like it just like puts it under its head, like it's going, man. Like it just looks like it's doing that all the time. Very odd creature. I've never really heard of this thing before, but I think that thing is incredibly neat now.
That is pretty neat.
And also, man, it's kind of funny how when they like kind of like just sit on the ground, they just kind of look like a little loaf with giant feet. It's a cool creature. I don't think that's a kangaroo rat. That looks like,
that's worse than that drawing of the marmot they were always talking about. That's worse than that.
Man. And apparently they're not that scared of people, I guess, because a lot of people have like up close pictures of these. Man, that is so cool. I wonder what other kinds of desert animals live out here in this area of the state of Nevada or elsewhere out here that would be interesting to look at. I wonder.
Also, another fun fact, because I said it was the last one, but I kind of lied. Down there at one of the international airports inside of Las Vegas, and I'm saying one of them. I know which one it is. I can't remember the name. They recently changed it. I think they changed it from McCarran to Harry Reid, I think. If that's the same one, I can't keep the name straight. I hate it when they change the names of places like this. But there's a terminal here that is actually operated by a government agency. Some people say it's the Department of Energy. Some people say it's maybe the Department of Defense. Nobody's really sure. But there's a terminal here where government employees board the planes daily, and also they get dropped off here daily too. And they get taken to national security sites around the state from that airport.
And that is Janet Airlines.
And it's just some like nickname. Some people came up for it, but it's got the red stripe on it. That's how you can identify it.
It's basically just the federal government's shuttle. Is basically what it is. No particular name to it or anything really. But still pretty cool. That's here in Nevada, in Las Vegas of all places, right near the Strip. But anyways, folks, enough of that. It's time for us to get on to some more questions because we've been rabbit holing about literally anything and everything out here in the West. So what do we got, Matthew?
So while we're at it, a big shout to Craig Jones for putting in a $20 support. And thank you once again, Craig, for I believe that was a second or third support of the night. And we do appreciate that. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I got to give a huge shout out to Craig Jones for that incredible support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible and keep it rolling. So huge thanks to you once again. And also, Armchair said, pull up the Thorny Devil. Let's see here. Let's take a look. Oh my goodness. This creature lives here in America, Matthew. It's unreal looking. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, correction. It actually lives in Australia, correction. The Thorny Devil.
That's like a Pokemon creature.
Man, honestly, man, throw a Pokeball at that thing and see what happens. I wonder what
that's a Charizard.
Bro, that's one of them damn Pokemon or something like that, man. Like one of them damn Squirtles or whatever, Like it kind of looks like that.
Yeah, Squirtle.
Yeah. I don't think they really thought that one through when they named it. But, anyways. Right, this guy's just holding up. Look at the underside. Bro, this thing's like, let me go. It's like, what the hell are you doing?
Creature's being assaulted right here by some human.
Why does it look so, like, just annoyed at this? It doesn't look like scared or anything. It's just like, put me down. Let me go. Like, do the roar. Man, that thing's kind of wild, honestly. I don't think we have anything like that here in America. Let's see. Animals of the U.S. Southwest. The fauna of the southwestern U.S. We want to find the ones that are endemic because everything else doesn't count. Well, we already know of Utah. Let's look at the endemic fauna of Nevada. So they don't actually have a lot. They have the alpine chipmunk. That's kind of normal. The Amargosa toad. This insect. They also have the Kui-ui, which is a suckerfish. Basically hot dog.
Do they have monitor lizards?
I don't know actually. They don't have anything under the M's for monitor lizards, so I guess not.
Now Now you know how I said this is still true. Like the whole bear on the leash with the collar and all that stuff. Like that would still be kind of nice. Like put on the mink, have the bear on the collar and the leash and all that stuff like that, and have it like walking around. That still would be neat. But I think what would be even neater than that though is if you got one of those massive monitor lizards. You know which ones I'm talking about, right? Like pull up the lizard, the monitor lizard, the big one. If you put that thing with the collar and leash on it and had those had two of them like akimbo style or something like that, now that would be crazy.
Didn't some guy do that in Johnny Quest?
Yeah, pull that up actually. Johnny Quest Komodo Dragon. Punch that in and let's see a picture of that. That's where I got the inspiration from, by the way.
Let's see here. Let's see if I can find it. I don't know who controlled it. I think it was this dude right here, but he had the Komodos that he had on the leashes.
Yeah, they're there on the leash. Look, yeah. Now imagine if you could have two of those suckers on a leash like that. I mean, that'd be kind of crazy right there. I'm not gonna lie. But do you have a pic? There's the guy right there, that big one, right there. Not that guy, not that. This one, that's the one right here. He had the creatures. Now I'm not sure if I can put on that much weight. I don't know if that's actually physically possible, but. Also, the eye patch. I think there's a congressman out there that might be able to take this job. But at the same time, though, you gotta admit that would be sick, though. Like two of these suckers on a leash, luring them around and stuff like that. That'd be something.
That would be something, man. But there's a lot of interesting creatures, though, just in the state of Nevada alone. Like the Pseudocultapa Giuliani. We're gonna make New York great, bro.
I'm gonna ruin my career.
Man, I heard that this beetle was actually caught on Borat 2 doing some very questionable stuff in a hotel room. That's just what I've heard, though. But, man, look at that thing. That's a Giuliani right here.
That's crazy.
That's unbelievable, really. And Nevada, of all places. They also have the Devil's Hole pupfish. Have you ever heard of these, Matthew?
No, I've never seen these, ever.
These fish are very special. They live in a tiny puddle inside of a cave. In Nevada, and if you take them from the puddle, they die. So they can only live in that puddle, and they don't know why, but every time they've tried to remove them to conserve them, they just die. So if anyone goes in there and drops bleach in this puddle, they're going to kill off an entire species of fish, and it's this one right here.
Yeah, it sounds criminal almost, but it kind of looks like a betta fish a little bit.
I mean, kind of really it does. Interesting enough, it's its own species, though. It can't, well, they haven't even been able to try and get it to crossbreed with anything else to really make sure, but they generally know, because every time they take one out, they die almost instantly. But still a really crazy sort of a creature. I've heard about that before, and it's apparently in Devil's Hole, which is a geological formation located in a detached unit of Death Valley in Utah. But anyways, they also have the Dixie Valley toad. That's what it looks like. They also have the Duckwater thing. It's just apparently a snail. They also have Hot Creek toad. And Independence Valley.
You know something about, you speaking about hot creeks, the hot geothermal stuff and stuff like that. Show people a picture of Utah Crater, by the way. I believe Utah Crater, which is in Midway. It's outside of Park City, I think. I think this is one of the only natural geothermal hot springs surrounded by a rock dome in the entire country. Is this one right here? That's in Midway, by the way.
That's crazy, actually.
I gotta see that. That is actually one of the sickest things I've seen. Natural, looking area.
Man, that is actually pretty crazy, honestly. That is really cool. But also, Matthew, I'm sure, Matthew, you've never heard of the Nevadan Lahontan cutthroat trout. I've heard that this thing is quite good at business.
He'd do good in politics.
I gotta be honest with you. It's the art of the deal. I can't help it. It's in the name. I am a cutthroat trout, and we do what we do, and we do what we want. This is what everyone wanted, is a cutthroat trout. This is definitely going to affect the trout population. They also have the spring snail, the dace, which is a rayfin fish. They also have the Railroad Valley springfish. I don't know why I don't know about these. They have railroad in the name. They also have the Railroad Valley toad, the Sierra Nevada frog. Interesting enough for Nevada to be an incredibly arid environment, they have a lot of fish and also frogs that are basically endemic to Nevada only. They also have another trout, another frog, and a springfish. Kind of wild that's that's all in Nevada. You would not think that that would be the list of animals in Nevada are like fish and frogs and toads. Because if you look at the state on a map, it's literally a whole desert. Anyways, though, it is time for us to get on to a couple of more questions. We got to get on to a couple of more questions. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so our next super chat goes to Chef Danny B, and he puts in a 20. And thank you once again, Danny, for that second support of the night. He said, Chef Danny again. And was the A-bomb tested in that area, or was it in New Mexico?
The original atomic bombs that we dropped on Japan were tested at Las Cruces, New Mexico, or Los Alamos, I believe, somewhere around here. And so they were, I believe, where in the world were they tested, Matthew? Was it Las Cruces or Los Alamos?
Let's see. I'm trying to pull it up real quick because I can't remember. It was a Trinity test at a remote site in the New Mexico desert. It happened at, let's see here, location. It occurred in Jornada del Muerto, Journey of Death Desert, part of the Alamogordo bombing and gunnery range, about 210 miles south of Los Alamos, New Mexico.
I don't know where.
Just punch in Alamogordo.
Let's see here. How do you spell that?
A-L-A. M-O-G. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, would you look at that? It's near Holloman. And I guess it's at the White Sands Missile Range, actually.
I didn't really know where White Sands was at. I've always heard about it and knew about it. I didn't know exactly where geographically it was.
Yeah, it's near Alamogordo and Holloman Air Force Base. What type of aircraft do they have at a Holloman, huh? F-16s and yeah, F-16s, and then these large hangars, which I don't know what they have in those, but the only ones visible are F-16s. But apparently it was out here at White Sands, I'm guessing, because that seems to line up. So that's interesting. I didn't know that. And then Oppenheimer, after that whole test, and cheating on his wife in the midst of all that, and also being a quiet communist, then he went up to Truman and went, I have death on my hands. And Truman was like, whatever, get this freak out of my office after all that happened. So, that's an interesting part of the story. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so now it's time to grab our Morse code decoders. We had Paul Schultz, Kevin J, Mason Miami, Joni Dog, Norm Pritchett, Arabelle Garbo, Her Royal Fluffiness, Kush Cobra Texan, Sire, and Brian Blairstown. They said Morse code. Excuse me. They said Russia is now going to start really feeling the damage of Ukraine's oil sanctions and LLT,
and ding.
Yeah.
Y'all got that down on the nail. That's the Morse code message of the night. I got to congratulate the Elite Spring Army Sentinel Corps for getting that correct time and time again, as it truly is amazing and incredible to know they all continue to get that Morse code message correct. I got to give a huge shout out to each and every single one of y'all, and I've got to say, once again, incredible work. So with that, I hope that has addressed that quite well indeed. And with that, folks, it's time for us to move on and into the third to last question of the night.
And this one is going to go to none other than, I'm trying to pick through here. We have a lot of good ones. This one here is going to go to P. Schultz, who said, did the oil tankers get any type of warning before being attacked in the Black Sea and these other areas?
No, they just got hit outright with no warning. So I hope that does address that well. We're on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Who LFG, who said, do you think it's possible that the U.S. is using HARP to create a drought in Iran?
I would highly doubt that. Regional droughts have been a historical commonality throughout the millennia that weather has ever been documented or recorded in history. So I would doubt it. I would just say that this is a very long-lasting drought in Iran. Much like there was in France. Many people don't know that right after the U.S. Revolutionary War ended, the French went through about a decade-and-a-half long drought, and nobody had HARP back then. It's actually one of the big reasons why the French Revolution happened, is because of the drought, crops were failing and people were starving as a result, and blaming that on the government, because the government was doing nothing to try and alleviate the problem, or at least alleviate the suffering of the public in the midst of a crisis like that. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Ride for Life, also known as Char G. And he said, can you guys cover what is happening with Russia selling its gold and the oligarchs buying it?
Actually, we have covered that about 2 weeks ago, and it appears that they're trying to find a way to make money for the government by selling the gold to non-sanctioned individuals in Russia who can then sell it for their own gain. So that way they can continue to try and finance the budget or at least the war for now. So that generally seems to be the action that they're taking at the moment by selling the gold. So I hope that does address that the best we can. And with that, we have actually reached the end.
Also, I want to grab 2 more bonus questions, actually, because we only grabbed 3 of them, and it's a Sunday. So let me grab 2 more bonus questions here, because I saw ones that we haven't seen before that would be very interesting to answer while we're still on the stream. But this one goes to Old Warrior, and he said, did they know if it was even a drone? He's referring to the attacks, by the way, in Senegal, or the alleged attack. He said, did they know if it was even a drone? Maybe it could have been a timed charge, and what's the realistic possibility of that?
We do not really know. There's a chance that it could have been a timed explosive, but explosives would probably be found by the crew at some point because there really isn't a lot of places where you could hide a bomb that easy on a ship, especially in the machinery spaces, considering that that's where most of the crew are going to be, either in the superstructure or in the machinery spaces. So it would be fairly difficult to do that. Not impossible, but difficult. But there is a chance that that could have been involved as well. It either was a close-range attack from Mauritania towards the ship, or it was a bomb on board, or it was something else entirely different than those things. But there is a chance. There's a possibility there. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best that we can. And with that, we are on to the last bonus question of the night. And so who was the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last bonus question of the night?
All right, and that viewer is going to be none other than, let me try to get it again. It just like jumped out of my sight here. Let's see here. This one goes to the Sunken Grave, who said, do you guys work from a script, or does one speak, then cue the other to take over? And how do you keep from talking over one another? And also, Sunken Grave, we don't script anything. Like, literally nothing is scripted. The short war videos aren't scripted. The stream is not scripted. It's all off the dome. Now, obviously, we do, like, for example, the Enforcer compiles the news beforehand based on the tweets throughout the day. Also, I'll go through and review everything before I jump on the stream so that way I can talk about it. You got to make the polls, too, so you got to be able to read through the news stories for that. But when it comes to how the show flows, we just gotten used to it. We follow a set format every single night, and the only thing that changes is the content of the news. So and also we're brothers too, so we kind of know like what each other's style is to a certain degree, so we know when one person's going to stop generally. So that's generally how it works. It's just I guess you could say a good dynamic, I guess you could say. But Enforcer, what say you?
That's pretty much how it is. We never have a script for anything. Even our short war videos are unscripted. It's all done right off the top of the noggin. And that's also why it sounds like we interrupt each other, especially Matthew interrupting me, is because I'm basically the engine that keeps something going on air. Matthew does all the most of all of the off-screen stuff on air, practically all of it, but I'm the one who has to keep the show interesting while it's on air. So I'm basically a motor that is running nonstop while we're live, and then if he wants to get anything edgewise, that's pretty much when he just interrupts me in the middle of the flow, because otherwise I'm not stopping. I never stop, and then he talks. So that's also why some people, like, I see this in the chat sometimes, and people will be like, damn, Enforcer Matt interrupted Enforcer Matt. It's like, that's how it works. It's like we don't have a script, so like that's the only way he can get a word in edgewise, because otherwise I'm going nonstop, because we can't have dead air, because dead air kills the show. So that's generally why y'all notice some of the little like quirks and curiosities of the show, like also very commonly said phrases like, and with that we're on to the next one, or Enforcer, what say you? Those are clear visual cues, well, not visual but audible cues in between me and Matthew to let us know that we're handing the torch off to them, so that way we're not leaving each other hanging. So there's a lot of stuff that actually kind of goes into that, but every single show is entirely unscripted. Even our jokes are unscripted completely as well. They're literally come up with on the spot. Very few.
I'm like confused about the jokes. I think they knew those were unscripted.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that those are unscripted. Like, we literally come up with those on the spot most of the time. Very rarely do we ever pre-prepare a joke. That's happened before, but even still, we don't even know when that joke's going to be said on air, because we're just like, man, that was funny. I love that joke. I'm going to figure out how to shoehorn it in tonight. So that's basically how the shows run all the time, which is honestly, it's a really weird thing to think about, because most people would consider that to be a death sentence to get on air. and do a show for an hour at least without a script, much less for 3.5 hours every day most of the time. So we're kind of a bit of an enigma with that, but generally every single live streamer is. But I'll also say a lot of live streamers don't make it. Not to
What happened to them?
well, they just completely fall off because they're not interesting. Like that
Maybe
happens.
that sounds morbid. You're like, a lot of them don't make it. I was like, damn, what happened to them? Like, is it just they got to them, the stress got to them, or what happened?
Oh man, like the boogeyman gets them. But with how it works, we like the show. We try and design the show to be as interesting and engaging as it can possibly be. Everything about the show is to make it as interesting for y'all to watch. Like that's everything that we do. Everything at the end of the day, we have to figure out some way to make the show more interesting for y'all to listen to, so that way y'all will continue to enjoy it and stick around. And a lot of people really don't get that, and they're very boring hosts, and then they end up losing their audience pretty quickly. So, that's also something that we really had to figure out through trial and error and learning and development and really evolution, basically, as far as the show goes. But that's incremental stuff, and usually it takes like a major breakthrough to do. But that's usually also why practically every single day we're in the top 50 or the top 30 live streams in America on YouTube, is because we make sure that through our format it's always going to be interesting. There's always going to be something to listen to at least, and maybe something funny, something cringe, or just something endearing enough that people will continue to enjoy the show. So in short, to get back to answering the question, the entire thing, everything that we do at all that's on air, it's completely unscripted. Everything is done live. So I hope that answers your question incredibly well, because a really interesting one. Sometimes we get to talk about the behind the scenes of the stuff, and that was a good question for us to be able to talk about that sort of stuff. And also, I see a lot of people actually like, the enforcers are actually pretty funny. We don't know, actually. We have no clue. I usually assume that the jokes flop all the time because we also, this is something for y'all to think about. If you're busting out laughing out loud at the show, we never hear your laughter. We're playing to a dead room every night. There's no noise on our end of the show.
I hear their laughter. I hear it in my head.
Man, I think you need to talk to someone, man. Like,
I get no respect right here. He said he's hearing laughter in his head. I said he's either a happy fellow or he needs to see a doctor, and I think it's number 2.
Oh man, I'm telling you, he talked to Dr. Vinny Von Botch. We were playing to a dead room every single night. So that would also eat at people a lot, is not having a live audience, or at least something to react to, so that way they knew their joke did good or bad. We play to a dead audience every single night because we never get to hear any of y'all laugh. The best we get is maybe like 30 seconds by delay, because our show is delayed by 30 seconds by default on YouTube. We maybe see some people putting in laughing emojis or LOLs or LMAOs in the chat, and that lets us know that people found it funny. But outside of that, we have absolutely no clue whether our jokes are landing or not. So, that's also a little bit interesting as well. But anyways, with that, folks, it is time for us to round this stream on out for the night. And I got to thank you all so much once again for enjoying the show tonight. We've had 70,000 people here over the length of the stream, and we had 12.5 thousand people here live at the peak tonight. We're always greatly honored and hugely appreciative of all of y'all enjoying the stream and always being here, even on Sunday night fundraisers, and helping to support the fundraiser, Nova Ukraine, with $3.6 thousand or $3,584 to be exact. Y'all are absolutely incredible and kind-hearted folks to be able to continue to support Ukraine this far into the war, 1,376 days in, almost 4 years in, and I know that we're greatly appreciative of that, and the folks over there in Ukraine who may have their lives saved thanks to y'all's support will also be greatly appreciative as well. And so with that, folks, we will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern time. Well, actually, I'm sorry, correction. I'm sorry. I'm starting to get back to the whole deal of thinking that we're running 7 days a week. We are going to be back on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern time to cover the next 48 hours of the news from around the world. And if there is a short war video to be made tomorrow, Enforcer Matt will be the one making that video. And so with that, we will see you all either tomorrow for the short war video or on Tuesday, one or the other. And so with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, Hurram Slava, get some rest, and good night, and long live the Republic.
And with that, folks, thank you all, like the Enforcer said, for helping us to reach that fundraiser goal for Nova Ukraine and also smashing it by at least $1,000 plus above the goal. And a huge shout out to you all once again for making that possible. And as a reward, go have yourself a chili bowl. But with that, we will see you all on Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern for the next Nightly War News stream. And also a big shout out to all 70,000 plus people that were here by the end of the stream. And we will see you all on Tuesday night. And if there is enough news to cover, I will be putting out that short video tomorrow midday. So we will see you then if it is a thing, or unless the U.S. invades Venezuela tomorrow, like Miss Disa said. If that's the thing, then we might be on air tomorrow, possibly. So we'll have to see. But with that, thank you all once again, and Slava Ukraine, Hero Slava, get some rest, and good night.
Spring on me,